All right, we're calling this to order, and we'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance together. It's kind of surprising to see so many of you here tonight. Nice to see you here tonight. So to ground us for tonight, before we start, I'm taking my cue from Italy. And Italy is crashing. Already we're not hugging, we're not doing handshakes, we're doing these kinds of things. And really this tears at the fabric of our interaction as a community, because we're human beings and we thrive on hugs and we thrive on being together. So we might see you next time on a video feed, maybe, who knows. So tonight for me, the word is compassion. It's compassion for a situation, taking care of each other, taking care of ourselves, taking care of the good of our community. And I want to thank Diane and her team for the extraordinary efforts she's going through again for getting information from our experts in the field when there's kind of no answer. So thank you. So report of actions taken in closed session. During the closed session, the board voted 502, members were absent, to authorize the district superintendent to adopt resolution 2019/20-49 to notify up to 2 probationary certificated employees that they will be non-reelected for the 2020-21 school year pursuant to Ed Code 44929.21. So that took place. There were no items considered in open session, no items C3, no. Statements of abstention, board members? Seeing none. Adjustments to the agenda, we are going to pull approval of the minutes tonight for the next meeting. We had some questions about that from other board members that we'll take care of in 2 weeks. And right now comes a very special time. Thank you for coming, and thank for everybody for coming. Student of the Month and Employees of the Month.
Hey, is this working? There we go. All right, we're going to start with the students. And I think we're going to start with elementary, and then we'll go middle, and then we'll go high. All right. Tatum Figueroa from Hidden Valley Elementary School. Bring it down, Tatum. It is my pleasure to present Tatum Figueroa as the Hidden Valley Schools honoree for the Santa Rosa City Schools Elementary Student of the Month. This choice comes as no surprise to all of her teachers, and it sounds like everybody in this room. Tatum has made herself a very important part of our school. She is a productive and creative force in our Odyssey of the Mind program, helping her team to advance to the state finals for the past 3 years, and again in 2020. She is a talented artist with a sharp eye for detail. She continues to be a responsible and compassionate member of all of our student leadership team and always volunteers to help out at all of our events. In addition to all those extracurricular activities and interests, Tatum holds herself to high standards academically, consistently completing excellent assignments, earning high marks on her tests, and putting her own unique stamp of personality on her work. Her 6th grade teacher is enjoying the inspirational quote she writes on her weekly spelling tests, carefully citing each source. She is respectful and empathetic towards everyone she meets. It's obvious that she cares about people in the world. And even though it seems that all of this would leave no time, Tatum is an avid reader and is often seen carrying around a thick book of fiction. All right. Tatum's positive and self-assured attitude, along with her wide-ranging interests and motivation to learn and to do her best, give us all confidence that she will excel at whatever she sets her mind to in life. Congratulations, Tatum. So I'm going to practice some good human interactions right now in this world. I'm going to give Tatum some mad jazz hands, okay, instead of shaking your hand. But we're super proud of you. Stay right there until we're done. Yes. Okay. Next up, Ricardo Bolaños. ¿Bolaños o Bolanos? Bolaños, eso. Lopez, Rincon Valley Middle School Student of the Month. Kind, caring, outgoing, helpful, dedicated, and nice are all words which describe our Rincon Valley Middle School Student of the Month honoree, Ricardo Bolaños Lopez. Ricardo is an 8th grade student who cares deeply about his education, his school community, and doing the right thing. He has been a student member on our school site council for the past 2 school years, where he often contributes his thoughtful and insightful opinions on school matters and is always willing to listen to those who may have a differing opinion. His French teacher, Mrs. Knight, writes, Ricardo is one of the most consistently positive students I have ever taught. He has high standards for himself, but he also elevates the performance and enthusiasm in whatever group he is placed. His intellectual curiosity and his eager participation is genuine. It's not motivated by attention or points, and is always beneficial to the class as a whole. He wants to know about everything French, the people, the culture, the language, the food, the customs. He also goes beyond the safe and brief answer on written assignments, taking academic risks and striving to expand his vocabulary. He is a collaborative student in the classroom, while also having high expectations for himself. His work is exemplary, and he usually has the highest score in the class. Ricardo Bolaños Lopez does a great job of making each day at RVMS the best it can be, and we are proud to honor him as our Student of the Month. Okay, quick picture. Okay. All right, this is Beth. All right. This way? Okay. So we don't have all these people. Photo bomb. Thank you. Okay, and now for our Maria Carrillo High School Student of the Month, I am proud to introduce Harriet. You're going to help me with your last name, Ikandu. All right. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name?
Yes, that's correct.
Ikandu? Okay, good. Maria Carrillo High School can't think of a more deserving student for this award than Harriet Ikandu. Harriet is a senior at Maria Carrillo High School and a humble leader. When the teachers and staff think of Harriet and all the roles she fills on campus, they beam with joy. Harriet takes action to improve the campus, the lives of her fellow students, and the community. Harriet has been a member of our Universal Citizens for Change Club since its inception. She has been involved in the work with the youth crew and shared her voice in an interview with Karina Hui, which was a brave and bold action. In the past 2 years, Harriet has become involved in the culinary program and has assumed the role of president of the Culinary Club. She has participated in Skills USA and won awards for her talents. She's an accomplished basketball player playing for the Puma varsity team since her sophomore year. Noting all these accomplishments, Harriet is still a soft-spoken young woman who does what she does out of passion and drive to make Maria Carrillo, our community, and our earth a better place. Harriet is a powerful producer, universal citizen, masterful communicator, and active learner. Felicidades, congratulations, Harriet. You are so deserving of this award. Okay, we need to take a picture here. Now we're on to the employees. We're going to start with Julie Molinar. Molinar? How do you like it, Julie? Julie Molinar is the Hidden Valley Elementary School Classified Employee of the Month. It is our honor to have Ms. Julie Molinar awarded the Santa Rosa City Schools Classified Employee of the Month for Hidden Valley Elementary School. Can you, Mrs. Molinar? Molinar? Molinar, okay. Mrs. Molinar has worked at Hidden Valley for 4 years as an instructional assistant in the Reading Intervention Program. As Ms. Molinar helps run the Reading Intervention Program, this entails many different skills. She is extremely knowledgeable in protocols and procedures with a different curriculum and online computer programs. She works closely with students and parents with testing and assessment for the district and the state of California and academic plans that support students and help them achieve their goals. Every day, she works closely with underachieving students that are struggling readers to give them the confidence and the skills necessary to be strong, confident readers. Mrs. Molinar is a respected and valued member of the Hidden Valley Elementary School due to her hard work, professionalism, and true team spirit. She is a member of the Hidden Valley Tier 2 team. She has amazing people skills, communication with parents, teachers, and students, and cares deeply about improving the lives of her students. During this time, she has proven herself to be a loyal, dedicated, and passionate employee. She is an asset to our school, our district, and Hidden Valley Elementary. Once again, it is my pleasure to present Mrs. Julie Molinar as the Santa Rosa City Schools Classified Employee of the Month for Hidden Valley Elementary School. Congratulations. So I think we're going to have everybody, they stand up here, right? They stay? Okay, and just so Julie isn't lonely, we're going to call everybody down to hang out with her while I introduce all of you. So can I have Meta George or Meta George? Dana Brady, who's not going to come. Laurel Varnbuehler. Lori Banks. Gail Bowers, Matt Bringadal, and Denise Elia Yen. Okay. Meta. Okay, good. All right, so it is our pleasure tonight to introduce Ms. Meta George as the Hidden Valley Elementary School Teacher of the Month. Ms. George is a 4th grade teacher and has worked at Hidden Valley for the last 4 years. Ms. George exemplifies what it means to be a wonderful teacher. She is kind, caring, and strives every day to be the best teacher she can be. She opens every day in her class by greeting each student personally and then spends time with her class going over her expectations for the day. She teaches them to be respectful and hardworking. Ms. George creates an environment in her classroom where students feel safe and welcome. She plans her lessons and curriculum for them to create success. She's an expert on having her students become voracious learners. Her students are engaged, focused, and have fun while learning. Every guest that walks into her room is immediately greeted by her students with, "Good morning, we are here and ready to learn." Ms. George is amazingly organized and is known as an excellent communicator with students, colleagues, and parents. She is a respected and valued member of the Hidden Valley Elementary community and an asset to the Santa Rosa City Schools District. She can and does make a daily difference in the lives of her students. Once again, it is our pleasure to present Ms. George with the Santa Rosa City Schools Award for Teacher of the Month for Hidden Valley Elementary School. Felicidades. So Dana Brady, unfortunately, can't be here tonight unless miracles are happening. No? Okay. Dana comes from Rincon Valley Middle School, and she's the Classified Employee of the Month. Dana is a special education instructional assistant and a dream employee. She is the one, let's see, it sounds like this is written by the principal, whom I can always count on. As a special education instructional assistant at Rincon Valley Middle, she always goes beyond expectations to ensure that our special ed students are supported, nurtured, and have the ability to access their education. To say that Ms. Brady takes pride in our school just doesn't encapsulate how much she cares. She does everything she can to be sure that the time our special ed students spend at school is the best that it can be. Ms. Brady is kind, hardworking, and works tirelessly to create a welcoming and supportive environment in the classroom. She greets all who enter with a smile and a welcoming word. We started the school year without a permanent teacher in the classroom, so we relied heavily on Ms. Breedy to support our guest teachers. She built the classroom culture and systems which created consistency for students, allowing them the comfort to interact with their learning. I honestly do not know how we would have managed without her superpowers, loving heart, and commitment for kids. Dana takes pride in her work, ensuring that all she does is done to the highest standard. She will not settle for less because she insists that RVMS special ed students need to shine like the jewels we know they are. Dana Breedy is a true Falcon, and we are grateful to call her one of our own. Congratulations, Dana. Who's Laurel? Are you Laurel? Are you Laurel? Laurel, come on up so I can see you. Laurel Varnbuehler, am I saying that right? All right. It is a pleasure that we honor Laurel Varnbuehler as the Rincon Valley Middle School Certificated Employee of the Month. Laurel has been a staple of the RVMS Excellence since 1994. She is currently the Science Department Chair, where she does a fantastic job leading her team by being collaborative and willing to try new ideas. Under Laurel, long before it was mandated, the Science Department began to implement the next-gen science standards. She knew what was coming and wanted to make sure that she and her team were at the forefront of the implementation. She faces challenges head-on, and our students benefit from this. Laurel also leads the RVMS 8th grade color team events, where our 8th grade students form teams and compete in competitions. When students return to visit, they tell us they remember these events most fondly from their RVMS days. Curriculum design is another area in which Ms. Varnbuehler excels. She loves to create 5E style lessons to provide hands-on experiences for students that give them a variety of methods to access content. Her labs are engaging and knowledge-packed. Her students have fun while learning the next generation science standards. Ms. Varnbuehler is a veteran teacher who breathes life into every lesson she teaches, and her students benefit in many ways because she cares so deeply for them. We are proud to honor Laurel Varnbuehler as the RVMS Teacher of the Month. Felicidades. Okay, next up is Lori Banks. Lori, where are you?
It's okay.
Did she just appear magically? Wow. Okay, Lori Banks. It is a pleasure and an honor to recognize Lori Banks, the Counseling Secretary at Maria Carrillo High School. Mrs. Banks has been an employee and an asset to the Puma community since 2015. Her contribution to our school is invaluable, and in all of her actions, she is kind, considerate, and professional. Mrs. Banks has a rather large job. Not only is she the secretary to all of our counselors, she enrolls new students, audits our attendance records monthly, ensures graduation Jeopardy letters go out in a timely fashion, enters all new and sensitive information about students into Illuminate, and at times does additional duties to support our registrar and health tech. These are just the tasks that come to mind. There are many more. She is a secretary extraordinaire. What makes Mrs. Banks so unique and wonderful at her job is her attention to detail, her great sense of humor, and her can-do attitude. Si se puede, that's what we call that. In every occasion, she goes above and beyond to help a student, a parent, or a staff member. Our front office would not be the same without her. At Maria Carrillo High School, we promote our graduate profile, powerful producer, universal citizen, masterful communicator, active learner. She exemplifies all of these qualities as an excellent role model for us all. We couldn't have a more perfect person in such an important position that is the first contact for Santa Rosa City Schools families and their students. Congratulations, Lori. Okay, now we have a dynamic trio. Where's my Gail Bowers, Matt Bringadal, all right, and Denise Elia Yen. Okay. She's okay. Two of the dynamic trio. So it is a great honor to recognize the Maria Carrillo High School dynamic trio: Gail Bowers, choir director; Matt Bringadal, band director; and Denise Elia Yen, drama teacher. One cannot be honored without honoring the other two. They are truly a force in the performing arts world. That is so cool. The trio has been working together as a tight team for the past 3 months preparing for this year's musical, Legally Blonde. In the 11th hour, Mrs. Yen had to have emergency surgery. Instead of doing what most of us would do and postpone or cancel the production, the three figured out how to keep momentum going. Mrs. Bowers has taken over as the on-site director. Mr. Bringadal has committed to staying during rehearsal events to work with students and stagehands. And Mrs. Yen communicates daily via text and emails with the other two to ensure that all is on track for opening night. This team works so well together, building on each other's strengths to improve the opportunities for our students. Because of this triad approach to the school's performing arts, the programs are growing and impacting our students in ways they never knew possible. Thank you, Mrs. Bowers, Mr. Bringadal, and Mrs. Yen. The three of you represent what education should be: commitment to each other, dedication to our students, and never seeing the road as narrow. Congratulations. So we're going to do a clap, like that's an aplauso campesino, that recognizes that each individual person that stands up here today is just part of a bigger whole. And when we do this clap, we feel our power together one at a time. Okay, do you guys know how to do it? Yeah.
I know, let's stand up. Congratulations.
That was awesome. Next time, Diana and I and Ed, we're going to stand up and photobomb you guys, so that's what we're going to do next time. We have school site parent organization updates. So we have Hidden Valley to speak to us, Rincon Valley Middle to speak to us, and Maria Carrillo High School to speak to us. Everyone here? Let me ask her.
Okay.
So state name and school, yeah.
Hi, my name is Marla Apodaca. I'm the PFO president for Hidden Valley Elementary. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to talk about our school. This is my first year as the PFO president, so I'm still kind of adapting and learning my role. The 2019 and 2020 school year has definitely still been challenging with the uncertainties of the PG&E power outages, the lack of adequate daycare workers for our aftercare program, which we've worked really closely with Steve Mazzara on to learn more about the challenges the district is having. The large-scale evacuations during the 2019 wildfires were definitely a challenge as well, with some additional school days that were closed. So we've also been faced with some significant cost increases with things like student programs like Lexia, Reflex, and increases in costs for other activities like some of our field trips and the bus transportation costs that have really gone up this year. But our Hidden Valley community continues the resilient recovery from the 2017 wildfire, and we see a lot of the families moving back into the communities around us, which is awesome. In light of it all, our Hidden Valley community is really strong and resilient, and we are working really hard to make progress at the school to create a warm community and a great place to be and learn. And we're really trying to make our teachers and faculty feel supported as we can continue to come back from all of the things that have happened. So student safety continues to be our top priority for all of us, and we're thankful to the district, Rick and Diane, for getting the completion of our security system installed and the locks at the campus. We're really, really thankful for that. The PFO has additionally funded, we're working on ensuring emergency supplies are available in each classroom in the event that they're needed. The PFO has also funded the renewal of Lexia for 100 students, and this was recognized by our teachers as the best supplemental learning system for the students who really need it. We've also renewed the contract for Lexia and IXL as additional tools to be assigned. We were able to provide a wonderful experience to our 4th grade classes by coordinating a trip to Fort Ross, which was awesome, and students were actively able to participate in the culture at the Fort Ross site. Our families had a very successful fundraising hackathon this year, and we're going to be using those funds to promote wellness at Hidden Valley. We have looked at improving our hydration stations to reduce the amount of plastic and promote hydration. And we're also going to be doing a wellness night to provide education about the importance of good nutrition, physical activity, and have some fun community events that night as well. So some of the things that we're looking to the future for would be to replace our outdated playground with a structure that can accommodate the larger number of students that we now have, and also a playground that would be more easily accessible to some of our disabled students, and hopefully to provide some shade during the recess times. So we will also be replacing a storage space for our PE teacher. As the structure that we currently have is not watertight, we've incurred some damage to our PE supplies. So we continuously look to Brad and our faculty and our teachers to find the best areas to spend our funds and our energy. And we hope to continue to work collaboratively with your team and do good things for the school. So thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Smits, president of the Rincon Valley Middle School Student Teacher Parent Club. I have an 8th grade daughter at the school and a junior at Cardinal Newman. This is my 4th time as president of the STPC and have thoroughly enjoyed my time spent at Rincon Middle. Rincon Middle has always been and continues to be what we believe the best middle school in the area, and we as parents work hard to continually uphold that status with our generous parents that donate to our family giving campaign and the countless amounts of volunteer opportunities that we offer on campus. Last year, we were able to make our fundraising goals with our family giving campaign. However, this year we are only at about 40% of our normal participation and monetary goal. The reasoning behind the decline could be several things, but mostly things like smoke days interfering with our most active donation time, a lack of strong parent representatives that handle only the giving campaign committee and therefore unable to advertise as much as we would normally do, and a general lack of enthusiasm in giving this year, still feeling the effects of the fires and lack of a little enrollment decrease. If this trend continues, we will need to reassess how much we are able to provide the teachers for their extra expenses when providing classroom supplies, funding field trips, and all the extras that our kids at RVMS are so accustomed to receiving throughout the years. Through all of that we have been through at RVMS, we are grateful to have such an amazing leader in Ed Navarro as principal at the site for the last 4 years. He has shown incredible leadership while guiding our parent and student community in what has been a very trying time of fire, smoke, and power outages. I cannot say enough about his care for our kids and responsiveness to our parent community. I have truly treasured the years that both my kids have attended RVMS and will miss it greatly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Teresa Jepson, and I'm the president of the Parent Association at Maria Carrillo High School, and I am the mother of 2 Carrillo graduates, a Carrillo junior and a Rincon Valley Middle School 8th grader. So it's hard to believe we'll be down to 1 school next year. But first of all, thank you for having us all here to speak this evening. And I'm very happy to represent the parents of Carrillo and to talk to you about some of the successes that we've had during the past year, projects that we have underway, and the challenges that we face on our campus. Our parent association works along with other parent groups such as the Puma Athletic Boosters, Band Boosters, the Performing and Fine Arts Committee, and Carrillo's Project Grad. And we all work as partners with the administration, staff, and students in an effort to make the Puma community a strong one. Among successes that I would include from the past year would be seeing our new principal, Katie Barr, preside over the graduation ceremony of the class of 2019, her first class. The milestone marked the end of a wonderful inaugural year, and we're thrilled to have her leading the Pumas. The momentum established during the last school year propelled us into the fall and our WASC visit. Surveys and focus groups with students and parents played a huge role in the process, allowing our voices to be heard. I do have to admit that there were more than a couple of times that I thought I would be very happy when the whole process was over. I do have to say, though, that once the actual visit was upon us, I realized it was the culmination of a year's worth of hard work and focus on where Carrillo is headed, and was very happy to have been involved. A huge focus at Carrillo over the past couple of years has been campus beautification. Our 20-year-old school is showing signs of its age, and we've all worked to spruce it up in ways that we can. Pulling weeds, spreading mulch, installing sod, and replanting the planter beds in the quad where the students gather for break and lunch. Our parent association has raised funds to install water bottle filling stations, replace the original Maria Carrillo High School sign with an updated one, paint some of the exterior areas of the building with our school colors, add Puma banners to our small gym facing Montecito Avenue, refresh some murals on campus, and paint Carrillo's graduate profile on the clock tower in the quad where all students can prominently see it. You may ask what the graduate profile is, and you've actually heard it a couple of times already this evening. The graduate profile is a Puma, and it's the framework that we're using at Carrillo to instill the core values that we want our students to embody when they graduate. A Puma is a powerful producer, a universal citizen, masterful communicator, and active learner. This profile emerged as a collaborative effort and provides the framework that supports the administration and staff as a guiding force by which programs and initiatives can be evaluated. And our hope is that the parents will now have a clear understanding of the skills that their young adult children will be equipped with when they leave Carrillo and move on to their next step in life, regardless of what it may be. And that students can better understand how what they are learning actually connects to the real world. So the next step in this process to make sure that the graduate profile is firmly established into the culture of Carrillo is a curriculum that's been aptly named by our students as the Real World Project. This exciting venture is a partnership between the school, the Parent Association, and several community partners such as the CTE Foundation and the John Jordan Foundation. Students' journeys begin as freshmen and continue through their senior year, and I'm sure that Katie will have much more for you on that in her report later this evening. When prospective parents ask me what my thoughts of Carrillo are, I usually say that while we aren't without our challenges, I think we're on an upswing. We face declining enrollment. It can be difficult to get parents to volunteer at things sometimes, and fundraising has become more challenging, as the other schools have said as well. But all of that said, I do believe the future is bright, and we are looking at creative ways to overcome and move forward. I think it's a great time to be a Puma. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is time for public comment. We have some comment cards. Okay, this is the time when the public can speak to the board and to the public about the items not on the agenda. And you have 3 minutes, and we'll just ask you to finish your sentence when you hear the little beep. And if you have complaints about personnel, you are going to, the person you can also speak to there is Assistant Superintendent Stacy Spector. So we have 4 tonight, and I'm just going to read the names so you can kind of queue up. Patrick O'Donohue, Carolyn, and I'm sorry, Carolyn Hrushka, Boris, Caitlin, and Lynn Briner. Patrick? And as you start, you're going to start with your name.
Hello, my name is Patrick O'Donohue, and if I cough, I assure you I don't have a virus, but I have 30 years of lung damage from being a firefighter, so I apologize. but I had this coffee before it was cool. So I'm here to talk about the potential staffing changes at the Santa Rosa French American Charter School. And I think some of those decisions might be misguided, specifically with Ms. Lastman. We would like to see her to return next year. Ms. Lastman is an incredible asset to the school and the community. Being that she's bilingual, you're not going to ever get another English teacher that has such a depth of knowledge of the culture and is able to welcome new French teachers in and is able to communicate so effectively and well with them as well as with the parents. This is a perfect fit and a perfect environment for a perfect teacher. And I have 2 students. I have 2 girls that go to the school, and this is the type of role model that I want for my daughters, okay? I also think that maybe you aren't aware of the value that she brings. She has added the integration of the ELD program. She's added a 4th grade English class. She's constantly picking up tasks and duties that she was not originally assigned. She has these skills, and we can't let this go. We can't. In addition, I don't think I'm alone in this decision. In less than 3 days, we've started a petition, and there's over 150 signatures on this petition requesting that we keep her there. Now, this is a small community of less than 500 students, and I have 2 students, so that means that our parent-student ratio is even less. If there's 150 people that agree with us in 3 days, I think maybe this decision was a little bit rash in this understanding. So I don't want to waste any more of your time. I just want to assure you that we feel very strongly. There are many of us that feel this way, and that we want her next year back.
Thank you.
Like I need a stool.
We'll put it down.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Hrushka. Oh, wonderful. Okay. My name is Carolyn Hrushka. Very nice pronunciation earlier. I appreciate your time and allowing me to speak today. I am also a member of the SR Fax community, and I'm here to speak on behalf of a notification that Ms. Lasman's contract would not be renewed for the next year. I have 2 students at SR Fax. I have a daughter in 4th grade who has been at the school for 5 years, and I also have a son in the TK class. Ms. Lasman is currently their English provider or teacher. I'm a healthcare provider. And in that, I would like to I'm compelled to speak because I'm seeing what I think is wrong. She is a valuable asset, much like Patrick just said. She speaks both English and French. She's very versatile for new families coming into the TK environment. I myself do not speak French, and I found that it was very comforting to have an English provider who could also speak French and streamline that for us and help us understand the curriculum differences. She is also a 4th grade teacher this year, and I have a student who has very much struggled in English, although has done very well in French and math. And to hear that your child is not doing well in English, when that is your home language, is a difficult struggle, but one we know that we're going to see challenges in an immersion program. And I have found it immensely helpful to have an English teacher who is timely in her communication, clear in her curriculum. She communicates and partners with parents, and she's been an advocate for my daughter in her IEP growth and program. With her leaving, I struggle to find another English teacher that can be as versatile as she can, teaching our younger grades, teaching our older grades, to be able to step into a substitute position versus overburdening another provider. She has 100+ English students, and she still finds the time to make us feel important and individual in her time. I get emails from her late at night, early in the morning, and they're always very clear and prompt. If there's changes to that curriculum, she communicates to the parents, and that is very helpful to working parents. I do want to emphasize our bilingual need for both teachers. Also that her onboarding and mentoring other younger teachers, she is very strong. I know that can ruffle feathers at times. But again, just like Patrick was mentioning, I like hearing my daughter echo her words in my home. My daughter, I will hear her say, use your brain to her brother because she's learning critical thinking skills. And I love hearing that from her because I know that's Miss Lasma's influence. So I would appreciate having that be reconsidered.
Thank you.
Bonsoir, good evening. Dear board members, my name is Boris Catelin. I'm French, and I am a 4th grade French teacher at the French Santa Rosa French American Charter School. I'm here today to say, on behalf of myself and my coworkers, how much we highly appreciate working with Mrs. Lasman, and to ask you to please reconsider the decision of not re-electing her. Mrs. Lasman is also the English teacher of my classroom, so I'm working with her every day. Let me tell you more about this amazing teacher, explain you why we think she is the best asset for our school. Mrs. Lasman has been teaching for 2 years at the Santa Rosa French American Charter School. She is an excellent fit for a French immersion school as she is perfectly bilingual. She is the only native English-speaking teacher at this school who is teaching English and communicating effortlessly with the French staff. Because she is fluent in French, she is able to individualize her pedagogy and help French-speaking children during the class or during pullouts. This help is greatly appreciated by the Francophone parents who often do not themselves possess a sufficient knowledge of the English language to help their children at home. Mrs. Lasman is a devoted, engaging teacher. She does not hesitate to dedicate her time to develop lessons, even after school hours, by creating bilingual lessons plans with the French teachers. She is always eager to collaborate with other teachers to advance the children's learning in a curious to understand different pedagogic techniques. She is open-minded in discovering new teaching methods and has high standards for all of her students while still taking into consideration their learning needs and levels. Mrs. Lasman also engaged herself in trying to help the teachers with the CBEST issue. Because of her uniqueness in the mastery of both languages, she is extremely helpful and is always eager to help her French colleagues translating and understanding administrative documents. As a unique and innovative school, each person's background as well as their ability to adapt are essential to the students' acquisition of language in cross-cultural curriculum. For all these reasons, we would sincerely appreciate reconsider your non-re-elector. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, I'm Lynn Briner. For 16 years, I've been teaching middle school science in the Santa Rosa City School District. Why middle school? Because this is such an important time in life. It's a bridge between being a kid and becoming an adult. I'm speaking to you today because I care deeply about our kids. I believe that the most important class we could incorporate into middle school is a health education class. Excuse me. In discussions with an administrator at the California Department of Education, I was surprised to find out that most of the state standards are just suggestions of what to cover in our classes. I discovered that there are very few state regulations about what we actually are required to teach in our schools. Today, I'm going to address the California Healthy Youth Act of 2016, not the deeper, wider California health standards. Simply put, the California Healthy Youth Act, which took effect in January 2016, requires school districts to provide students with integrated, comprehensive, accurate, and unbiased sexual health, and HIV prevention education at least once in middle school and once in high school. As you dig deeper into this state requirement, you will discover just how comprehensive it is. The law spells out 5 primary goals. 1, to provide pupils with the knowledge and skills necessary to protect their sexual and reproductive health from HIV and other sexually transmitted infections and from unintended pregnancy. 2, to provide pupils with the knowledge and skills they need to develop healthy attitudes concerning adolescent growth and development, body image, gender, sexual orientation, relationships, marriage, and family. 3, to promote understanding of sexuality as a normal part of human development. 4, to ensure pupils receive integrated, comprehensive, accurate, and unbiased sexual health and HIV prevention instructions. Sorry, there's so many words in here. And provide educators with clear tools and guidance to accomplish that end. 5, to provide pupils with the knowledge and skills necessary to have healthy, positive, and safe relationships and behaviors. Please note that 3 of those primary goals involve skill building. We learn skills through practice, and practice takes time. To comply with this regulation, I estimate that a qualified instructor would need 3 to 4 weeks of instructional time. An outside consultant cannot cover the required material in an hour or 2, or even in a week. We need to take this part of our children's education seriously. They deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comment is closed. I want to thank everyone who takes the time to come to public comment. Do we have one more card? Thank you for speaking up. Micah Carlin Goldberg.
Thank you. So my name is Micah Carlin Goldberg. I teach 6th grade at Steele Lane. I spoke with you several times earlier this school year. I haven't been able to make it due to family obligations recently, but I'm coming to bring up a topic that I talked about earlier this year, which is the entirely online registration and information updates for our families. This year we transitioned away from paper, and our families were no longer sent home an emergency contact card to fill out on paper the first day of school. Last year we sent them home. I had 100% of my students' information updated 6 days into school. I believe we had nearly 100% within 4 weeks. As of the report I asked for from my office, 246 out of 424 students do not currently have updated contact information for this year due entirely to the online system. I expect the same is true for our online lunch applications. We took our 6th graders to science camp. The camp we use has transitioned to an online system, but we asked for paper. We took 59 6th graders to camp. 1 did the online registration, and 58 gave us a piece of paper. We must plan and decide to change back to including our most at-risk populations with a paper emergency update at the beginning of the year. I also want to talk about the plans for cleaning our schools with COVID-19. Superintendent Kitamura and Assistant Superintendent Stacy Spector have sent out information about hand sanitizer and about cleaning down surfaces, and my concern is I don't know that there's actually enough people hours to do what we're saying we're going to do and wipe down every surface in every classroom every day. We already only get vacuumed once or twice a week because there isn't enough time in their schedule to vacuum every classroom every night, let alone wipe down all the surfaces. I love the plan. I expect the actual implementation won't match what we're planning, and I'm concerned about that. My school is one of the few that actually has hand sanitizer dispensers in almost every classroom. 2 got missed. We've already run it out once. They gave us an extra canister 2 days ago. It's out. I am concerned about the lack of sufficient hand sanitizer. I have 31 students. Washing hands in the one sink in the classroom takes 16 minutes at a minimum. Other classrooms don't have sinks. And the final thing I wanted to talk about is with our school closures, An email was sent out yesterday saying that we were unable to transition our April 13th Professional Development Day to a Student Instruction Day because of lack of timely, able to come together with a timely plan with Santa Rosa Teachers Association. My understanding is Santa Rosa Teachers Association was first reached out to 5 days before that. We've known for months that this might be a possibility. Why was the union not included in a conversation in December or in January or in February, where we could have had time to talk to our people, find out what they think, have real community input about what the impact will be on our families and their changing plans instead of doing it at the last minute? I'm concerned about that because the email made it sound like SRTA didn't want to talk to you. We've been trying to talk to you. We just haven't been given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. CSEA report.
Good evening, President. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Yes? Yes, okay. Good evening, President Fox, Superintendent Kitamura, school board members, and student board member. First, we would like to welcome 7 new classified employees. May they find Santa Rosa City Schools a place to work for many years. Congratulations to 3 employees on their promotion to a new assignment. We congratulate the 1 employee who will be retiring at the end of the year. We thank them for their many years of service with Santa Rosa City Schools. We say farewell to 1 employee and wish them the best in future employment opportunities. Also, we have recently received a new batch of updated job descriptions to the job study. Members have been actively participating in the job description study interviews. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. We have the Santa Rosa Teachers Association report.
Hello, I'm Will Lyon, President of Santa Rosa Teachers Association. I'll be brief. I want to stand with the parents and the teachers who are fighting for Ms. Lasman, and I want to add that she was a staunch advocate for union members. She was the union rep, and I think she was excellent at that, and she was very helpful in the last couple years advocating for students and staff. I also want to, mention that later tonight we're talking about reduction in force. When you add those numbers with now, my count is that we're up to 20 non-elects, 25 reduction in force, and then the resignations and the retirees that we have, we're looking at having about 50 fewer SRTA members next year if all of those go through as suggested. I don't know that those are wrong decisions. I'm not criticizing those decisions, but it's hard, right? We're worried about combo classes in elementary. I hope this is not a controversial statement that combo classes are not best practice. It's impossible to teach 5th grade math and 6th grade math at the same time. So teachers that have combo classes work extra hard and are less effective. And that's not good for our students. Doesn't mean that it's possible to eliminate them all, but our concern is we will have more combo classes. We're worried about that. We're worried about impacts to electives because we know that we have a lot of credit recovery needs, that we're going to need English and science and history and math, and we're worried that's going to negatively impact electives. Those are our concerns, and those are the head concerns. The heart concerns are we're going to miss these 50 teachers and all the education that they provide, and it creates a lot of anxiety for everybody else to see those challenges. So that's not to say you should vote no on them. I think the general concept that if you have fewer students, you need fewer educators is right, but just making sure you're aware, it makes us anxious. It makes us worried about what that's going to look like. So give us a little patience and a little grace as we go through master schedules. Some people are going to get, some people are going to lose a class they like to teach. Some people are going to switch grades. It's going to be a challenge. So I'll thank you in advance for being graceful as we go through that. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no report this evening, President Fong.
Dr. Kitamura.
Thank you. Any students still left here? I'll give you extra credit. No, it's okay. Thanks for being here tonight. Montgomery, what about Montgomery's soccer team? My gosh. Wow, awesome. Congratulations to both the boys and the girls teams for making it to the NorCal finals, champions rather. So they'll go on to state now for that. So I'm going to talk, what's that? Oh, that's right, Maria Carrillo as well. Any others? Do we have any others going on? Okay, that's good. COVID-19. So you have received a lot of emails from me and the staff around trying to keep you updated about everything that's happening with this. And I will tell you, it is somewhat of a moving target because we do hear different things from different people. And so we are really utilizing the Sonoma Public Health as our guide, Sonoma County Office of Education, as we make these decisions. I say all of this to say that I think that it's going to be a difficult spring as we figure out how we manage what is going to happen. In fact, tonight the county is releasing some information at a special meeting between 7 and 8, something like that. Oh, it's right now, where there's going to be some more, I believe, criteria and restrictions that are going to affect us. You have probably heard we have canceled field trips, we have canceled some events. I can't even look at Mrs. Bauer right now, having gone through canceling 2 trips and trying to manage all of that with the kids working so hard to be able to have these trips. So in that, just please know we're going to keep you apprised of everything we know as quickly as we know. I also want to address what was said around the April 13th and why we didn't make this call earlier. And I will tell you that the reason is because we still have not heard back from the state of California about whether or not our Kincaid days are going to be waived. We also have not heard about the PSPS days. So if and what is looming in front of me is what happens if we have to close school for 14 days or more because of COVID? Where are we going to be in terms of what the state is obligating us to fulfill in terms of days? No answers from the state on that because we can't even get answers about Kincaid and about the public power shutoff. Would I have liked to have made this decision much earlier? Absolutely. Either way, it impacts families because it's going to impact them in April and it's going to impact them in June. Honestly, as my discussions with Mr. Lyon were about how can we help families and how can we have staff potentially not have to go to school on June 3rd. And it wasn't about that SRTA wasn't willing to work together on us, it just was timing. The timing of exec board, the timing of rep council, we'd be well beyond April 13th. If I worded it in a way that I was placing blame, that was not my intent. It was really that we just couldn't do it in the amount of time. And it's time that I have to make a decision about April 13th, which is to hold the PD days. So I wanted to address that and speak to that. What are they saying? Yeah. So it just came out that it's to postpone or cancel non-essential activities with gatherings of 50 people or more. So that just came out. And so now don't tell Ms. Yan, don't tell her. I mean, because anyway, so more, this just came out, it'll come out to all of you. All right, let me move on. I just want everybody to know, because I know they're probably watching as well, is that we continue to work together with the CCLA Cook merger teams to move forward on those initiatives. And so we'll have much more information about it, but that we are meeting with them. There's a lot of good collaboration that's going on, and we will be doing a presentation very soon, a joint presentation. And finally, I want to acknowledge that I have submitted an application, a nomination form for the AXA, Association of School Administrators of California, something like that, for the Every Student Succeeding Award. And I have nominated Victor Pena, who's sitting right there. He will be representing Region 4, which is all of the North Coast, a big region. He worked together with me on his biography, and so we were able to write a really, really good application. I hope that he is selected so that on November 5th, we can go to San Diego, where he will receive the award. Everybody cross your fingers. And so congratulations to Victor Pena. So.
Congratulations, Victor. That is really an honor. I'm just like excited. I do have a short report tonight, and it really isn't about COVID or anything like that. It's about compassion, as I spoke about earlier. And I want to bring this back to teaching and learning, because we're all getting just crazy and anxious. President Lyons spoke to about anxiety, and kids are anxious and parents are anxious. So I just want to bring it back to compassion. And I want to bring it back to where it really makes a difference in classrooms, in the minute-to-minute interactions between teachers, staff, and student, because that is what engages our kids. I got a chance to go visit some teachers in their classrooms this past couple weeks, and thank you for inviting me. I got to talk to the teachers, I got to talk to the kids. And really, the magic happens in those really in-between moments between doing the worksheet and the project and getting ready for the class, where the teacher or the staff member is just reaching out and recognizing that child, that student. And it's magic, and that is what keeps the student engaged. When things get hard, and we've been talking about grad requirements and all of that, when things get hard, you know, a kid, as we all know, can be doing brilliantly in class on this project, on this discussion, but finally not succeed in the class, not get a passing grade because of those things beyond what we can see, those invisible traumas that we can't see, and we may not ever find out until, like, there may be 30 that I have found out recently about some of my ex-students, you know, and I wish I knew, and it brought me to tears. And so the work we've been doing as a district in terms of social emotional health is so, so important. It's in our mission vision, it's in our priorities, and I recommend that you check out a video. When you're home, you know, quarantined, all of us, check out a video called Paper Tigers. It's about 4 or 5 years old now, but it has to do with trauma, and it has to do with the children and what happens and the kinds of intensive care we need. So we're talking about those kids who can't pass their classes. It's just, students are suffering, and the teachers are suffering, and the board members are suffering. Your superintendent's suffering because we don't want this for children. We're talking about the trauma, and we're looking at the ACEs and all that kind of stuff, but I just invite us to just treat ourselves and each other and our students with compassion, and again, hats off to teachers who make that difference in the classroom every day, every period, every minute. It's called Paper Tigers. Yeah, thank you. All right, we are to our discussion action items. And the first thing we have up for us tonight is a resolution recognizing March 2020 as National Women's History Month. Diana, are you doing this one? There went my meeting again, wait. Oh, here it is. Are you doing it? Am I doing it? I'm doing it, okay. 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, women's right to vote. Took us a long time to get there. And we're still looking at inequalities, I think, everywhere. This happened to me again. This happened last time. Wrong meeting. Got this new computer, and I don't know, it just goes crazy sometimes. I always get to see ads. So this is the women's suffrage banner that they wore, with the colors they wore when they were marching. And there are some local people, as we say, in the, as Diane and her team wrote in the board report, about local people from Glen Ellen and Marin who were pushing for women's right to vote back in 1911, years before it finally got passed. So as a history teacher, this is something that we've kind of done for years and years and years, and we've had in our own town a really powerful organization, the Women's History Project, who's been really instrumental. I don't know if history teachers are still using that, but that was really a great resource. March 20th is the National Women's History Month, and for all these resolutions, you know, it's kind of weird that we just do it for a month, but we don't really do it for a month, we do it all year, but this is, they get their place in the sun. Whereas women of every race and ethnic background contributed and continue to contribute to our country's triumphs and accomplishments in countless ways, and that women have played and continue to play critical roles in the economic, cultural, and social spheres of our nation's life, labor force, and the home. Women have played a unique role throughout our history by providing the majority of the nation's volunteer labor force. Okay, just saying, we heard from parents tonight, 3 women, not always, but tonight. Women of diverse backgrounds have served as leaders at the forefront of progressive social change for their own right of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also to abolish slavery, promote fairness, equality, and safety in the workplace, and advance the modern civil rights movement. And the role of women in history has been overlooked and undervalued and is now an important part of the body of the American and world history. And this history social science framework for California public schools, K through 12, says that the history curriculum of the community, the state, the region, the nation, and the world must reflect the experiences of men and women and of different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, and that these studies be integrated at every grade level. So be it resolved that the Santa Rosa City Schools District proclaims the month of March 2020 as Women's History Month and encourages all schools to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional materials and activities. So women and men, we get to celebrate women's contributions, Rosie the Riveter, and my own grandmother who worked in the naval shipyards. She was a Rosie the Riveter too, back in World War II. So we need a motion to pass this resolution.
I'd like to move to pass the resolution recognizing March 2020 as National Women's History Month.
Second.
Woohoo.
Director Alegria?
Aye.
Director McCormick?
Aye.
Director Manieri?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Fong?
Aye.
And Director Moreno?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we have some principals who are here to present to us tonight. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for preparing your presentations, and we can hardly wait to hear them.
So come on down, please. Principal, all 3 principals. This is great. All right, good evening. Tonight we're going to hear from these 3 fabulous principals, and like usual, we're going to start with the elementary. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brad Coscarelli, who's the principal at Hidden Valley Elementary School.
Good evening, everyone. Very proud principal of Hidden Valley, and our assistant principal, Miss Amber Williams. Amber. So many of the slides that you'll see tonight from all three schools are ones that you know very well already. And I may push past most of those slides fairly quickly. Next slide, please. So here is our overview. We have a growing population, which is great to report. As you heard earlier from our PFO president, we are having quite a few amazing move-in parties where parents and students, the families that have lost their homes in the fires, are now just moving back in. And we do pull, if you look at our attendance area, from Fountain Grove and Coffey Park, both areas heavily impacted by the 2017 fires. And also, we've had a death of a young teacher just last summer, the Paradise Fire, this year's Kincaid, PG&E power shutoffs, and we've lost 9 days at our schools. We have a deaf and hard of hearing program that we've had for many, many years, DHH, with 25 students. Our free and reduced numbers are up 30%. Our English learners are down. That's due to a massive reclassification last year. And our special education numbers are up at 17%. We also have high test scores, which you'll see later, a lot of new technology, and very low truancy rates. This is another slide that you've seen, and this one, and this one. So the Hidden Valley SIPSA goals, SPSA, Single Plan for Student Achievement, are in exact alignment with the district's LCAP goals. Again, our district's inquiry cycle. This is the first piece of data on this slide. These are our CASP results from last year. And as you can see, we're doing well. However, we still have work to do. If you look at the red area, we have over 16% in ELA and 17, almost 18% in mathematics, respectively, that are still not at standard. So, Youth Truth. We were talking about this earlier today. The trends that we see from the Youth Truth surveys. One of the questions was, what are the most pressing community-wide needs related to fire recovery efforts? And the number one answer for our staff members, and it also gave that data for our Santa Rosa City Schools, as President Fong was just mentioning, emotional and mental health services, 100% of the staff members at Hidden Valley and 100% of Santa Rosa City Schools employees. Another question in the last year, have you seriously considered moving away from Sonoma County as a result of the following? And the number one answer was the cost of living, 100% of staff members at Hidden Valley, and 100% for SRCS. Also in the Youth Truth survey, and this is important for me as an administrator, as a principal, admin treats staff with respect, staff treat each other with respect, and teachers work together to improve instructional practice. All three questions were at 95% agreement on the Youth Truth survey. Next, so this is the family survey part. What are the most pressing community-wide needs related to fire recovery? And again, you'll see the trends. Number one answer was support for educators, and number two, emotional and mental health services. And the same question again, have you seriously considered moving away from Sonoma County? And again, the 1 and 2 answers, cost of living and wildfires. And the other questions that I also put in here that I wanted all of you to see, I would recommend my school. My student is getting a quality education, and I am proud of my school. All questions at 92% agreement from families. So the cycle of inquiry for Hidden Valley. So based on our SIPSA goals, our data, and our strategic plan priorities, here are the questions. How will we analyze data to focus on effectiveness of programs? How can collaboration time be used to support instructional outcomes? And that is new for us with the new bell schedule just last year. How can Hidden Valley support our underserved students? And how can Hidden Valley create, implement, and support our student, staff, and school community with a comprehensive wellness plan? So here's our theory of action. If Hidden Valley implements that comprehensive wellness plan and continues our reading intervention program, provides the 30 minutes of designated daily EL time, works on solutions to our daycare issues and after-school supports, and provides common planning time through our new bell schedule, then we hope a dynamic partnership of students, staff, parents, and community will foster a cohesive school environment, creating a safe setting where children have the opportunity to develop their full academic potential, self-confidence, and compassion. So this is really the heart of the report. This is the implementation of a comprehensive wellness program using what we call MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, and the impact that we have seen. So first, and this comes from Ms. Ennemark, and she has stated this over and over again, and a lot of us truly believe this and agree with her, connections before content. We want to try and build relationships before academics, and the Youth Truth data that we've seen means that we have more work to do. Truancy, chronic absenteeism, it's for wellness and academics both. And at Hidden Valley, we have very low truancy rates. And these are expected results recognized with our attendance data. The reading intervention program that we have, concentrating on academics, the expected results, well, we've seen over 90 students supported this year, and that data exceeds the expected results of how many students would be in the program and supported. Best Plus Wellness, so we have a Tier 1 team teacher support, and our expected results are that we are creating coherence as seen in our survey data. We've also begun last year a toolbox program that helps with wellness, and our hope was to implement it throughout the school, and the results are it is now taught throughout all classrooms last year and this year. And student study team process, wellness and academics both. So Ms. Williams has been awesome helping us with our SSC team parent meetings, and she has been able to help me have much more meetings and data for each individual student. And sorry, if you go back just one slide, on the very bottom, highlighted, and Marla Apodaca already mentioned this, please join us. If we can hold it, April 30th is, we're hoping to have that wellness night. Please. Last year, we heard from different stakeholder groups, and a lot of our parent groups and teachers and staff wanted us to become a STEAM maker school. This was also suggested by our superintendent and assistant superintendents, and we have now become a STEAM and maker school. We have a lab, we have class and whole school projects, and Dr. Kitamura also put out earlier this year an email about Snap the Gap, and we now have that in place in conjunction with UC Davis. The food pantry, this is something that I created at my past school, and I wanted to do it again. So now we have a pantry in place so that we have food, clothing, and toiletries so that no child goes without. School safety, wellness, we have, as Marla indicated earlier, new cameras, new locks, and new lights. So again, very grateful for those. We have a massive technology upgrade in 3rd through 6th grades. We've been able to spend SIPSA money and PFO monies on large TVs, iPads, Chromebooks, and hopefully we can continue into our lower grades either this year or into next year. And earlier in the presentation, I mentioned that our EL population has dropped, and it's because of the program that we have for reclassification. 2 years ago, before I was at Hidden Valley reclassified 3 students. Last year, we put our efforts into it, and we reclassified 33 students. So a huge jump, and it actually really helps the next 2 presenters because we don't see the long-term ELs then that are concerning. So reflection and learning. Well, we know, and you'll hear this over and over again tonight, school safety is still in the minds of our staff and families, and it's everything right now, not just fires and smoke days, PG&E days, lockdowns, but the COVID-19, everything. We know and believe in connections before content, and we know communication is key. And we do believe, because Dr. Kitamura has been pushing this for a number of years, in Michael Fullen's work. So we are a family, and we like to say we are Hawk Strong. And I think this is last. Concerns and barriers. Well, you've heard about daycare, and it's maybe a little weird for a principal of a school to say that that is one of the top concerns, but it is for our families. Many of them have 2 working parents, and they absolutely depend on it, and if they can't get it, it's very difficult for them then to come to Hidden Valley. And I know Steve Mazzara has been helping us on this issue. We have more health and wellness support staff. Most of them are part-time. We do have, and this is district-wide, county-wide, statewide, a lack of substitute teachers. And it's tough because teachers want professional development, they sign up for it, they spend a long time creating sub-plans, and then unfortunately, some days I have to call them back from the district office to go back into their classrooms because we just don't have the subs in place. The last 2, equal access for our students. We do have after-school tutoring, athletics, etc. But for those approximately 50 students that do take the bus, it's very hard for them to access. Their parents need that bus to take them home. And if they don't take the bus, then there's issues with transportation. And of course, the survey results, we have community staff concerns over all of those. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Coscarelli. All right, we're going to move on to Rankin Valley Middle School. Mr. Navarro.
Hello, Board. Superintendent Kitamura, President Fong, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity for me to come up here and brag. I get to brag about my school, and I'm very, very proud of it and the work that we've done. And it's nice to have an opportunity to show off and show everybody where our focus is. So we're going to go ahead and just start with a little bit of an overview of who we are at Rankin Valley. We currently have 820 students. We're 2.5 African American, 12.4 Asian, 11% English language learners, and 24% Latinx or Hispanic, 29.5% socioeconomically disadvantaged, 9% special ed, and 5% 2 or more races. We have 74 families who are currently enrolled who are impacted by the Tubbs fire. We have 42 teachers, 2 counselors, and 1 assistant principal. We have our test scores up here. I wanted to show our 2018-19 SBAC scores, just to show that Rankin Valley is doing well. Our 7th graders outscored the district as well as the state in mathematics and English language arts. We also outscored the district and the state in 8th grade mathematics, English, as well as the science test that they took. So again, just a little piece to show that what we're doing is working, and we're proud of that. This is a slide that just shows our school site council members who we work with closely. You'll see Ricardo is on there. He was our student of the month. He's been our school site council member for 2 years, and he's a great addition to the club. You'll see the LCAP goals as well as the RVMS goals that align themselves pretty clearly. Goal number 2, increase student and family engagement to build a stronger school community. That's really where we're doing our work right now. I'm using the SRCS theory of action, the MVP, and the priorities to address the RVMS goal number 2. So the theory of action, I've highlighted some of the areas of focus in our theory of action, which we use to help lead the charge. So we're looking at engaging in problem solving through an inquiry cycle of growth, providing and strengthening social and emotional supports, and utilizing data to inform the inquiry cycle for growth. This is our vision and mission that I'll address a little bit later. And then our priorities. So the RVMS focus of this year has been priority number 5. It is through this lens that we've been focusing in on our work. So I did something a little differently this year. I looked at our goals, and then we got the MVP and the priorities, and I thought, how can I blend them together and look at our goals through the lens of the MVP and the priorities? So that's where my cycle of inquiry came in. So I had a plan. I thought, how am I going to do this? I've worked with and created mission and vision statements before, and I've seen them put in binders, placed on shelves, and forgotten. I believe in this document, and I wanted to make sure that it got the attention that it deserves so it could be real and not just a placeholder on a shelf. So at my first staff meeting of the year, I had the staff read the priorities and then read them to themselves. Then with an elbow partner, I asked them to share which priority spoke to them, and then shared it back and forth, and then we shared out as a group. And at that point, I was able to kind of see where were we leaning, what were we looking at. And it really came out that after doing so, my staff was really looking at priority number 5, equity and excellence. So that gave me the green flag to say, okay, we're gonna go with this. So I thought, okay, how am I gonna gather the data that I need? So I was listening to staff listing observations and concerns about changing school climate and culture, because that's really what was kind of driving the mood. That they felt that there had been a change in school culture. Things were starting to feel a little differently, and they wanted to get ahead of that. And they thought, how do we do that? So at my staff meeting, I thought a whole plan was created where we were able to gather the information that we thought would help us. So I asked them, who are our students? Like we talk about, we want to help our students. Well, who are they? So we brainstormed, and we came up with lots of different categories of who our students were. And then we looked at those students and we thought, what are the students' obstacles or barriers that are keeping them from being successful? And then I challenged them and I said, what are our obstacles and barriers from keeping them successful? And they brainstormed all those ideas, and then I tabulated all that information. At the next staff meeting, we looked at that data and we thought, okay, this is what we see as the students' obstacles, these are the see as our obstacles. Now, what obstacles can we do something about? Because there are some obstacles that are just beyond our control, but not all of them. So I had them look at that and say, okay, what can we do? How can we meet them where they are? In the classroom, out at lunch and at breaks, and in the hallways. So we had them brainstorm all different ideas of what they could do in those different areas, because that's where our students are where they spend their days and where some of the challenges are. And then I had them create I wonders, because I wanted them to be able to think about, okay, here we now have a problem that we've addressed. We've looked at the barriers that might be in our way. Now I'm going to challenge you to wonder, what could we do about these? And I gave them a homework assignment from our staff meeting, and they all filled them out. And then we had a Google Doc where I was able to then, again, tabulate all that information. And at that next staff meeting, I presented everything right back to them to say, okay, this is what we see. What can we do today? So now that we know who our students are, what can we do differently today to impact their successes? And it really stemmed around connection through content. So it was really, really encouraging for me to see my staff say, yes, this is what we want to do. So staff came up with suggestions on how to improve the school climate and culture through systematic changes by looking at bell schedules, the use of SSRW, by creating our cost team so that we could look at student needs. So our cost team, to this date, we have discussed 27 students, 3 of which are still at our campus, or excuse me, 3 of which have left our campus. Interventions that have been discussed include SSTs, IEPs, 504 meetings, our bridge program, formal and informal restorative circles, student check-ins and outs with staff, truancy data, social emotional support, our SAY counselors, CPS contacts, community service agreements, behavior agreements, our SRO contacts, student teacher staff relationship building, community connections such as double punches and violent prevention partnership, and SRCS tier 3 referrals. So in doing that in our cost team, I was able to get my assistant principal, our SRO, our school nurse, our attendance clerk, our restorative research specialist, our bridge teacher, counselor, student advisor, and SAY clinician to go to these meetings so that we could sit there and really look at our students who are having struggles from all angles. We wanted everybody's perspective on what do we see and how can we help them. And then once we had that, then we could create a plan through an SST, invite the parents in and say, this is what we're seeing, and these are the ways that we think that we might be able to help your students. So it's been pretty successful. I also, back one more. So I also was able to challenge them. We were looking at our students about what can we do today? And so we decided that we were gonna take a student under our wing, and I asked them, okay, how many of you have a student that you connect with? And many of my staff members raised their hand. And I said, okay, now I want you to think about that student. Is it one of our easy ones? And I said, what do you mean by that? I said, is it a student who is attentive in class, who does all their homework, who's a joy to see and smiles at you every morning when they walk into your classroom? And if it is, great. I'm glad that you're supporting that student. But I really want you to be thinking about, can you add another one? Someone who may not be as easy as that one to really take under your wing. And they said, okay. And so I had to acknowledge that they were connecting with students, all students, but I also wanted to challenge them to push the envelope a little further. And they agreed to do so. So then I told them at the next staff meeting, because this is now an ongoing agenda item. We have unpacking the MVP as an ongoing agenda item at my school. And so at the next meeting, I asked them, actually, it was kind of tough because we missed the staff meeting because of smoke and fire days. So then it was 2 months later that we came back, and I said, I know that I gave you a homework assignment, and I know that I asked you to report your challenges and your successes. So how many of you can remember what they were? And their hands shot up. And we had some successes, we had some challenges. It wasn't the end-all, fix-all. You know, there were still some kids who were challenging when they took them under their wings who remained to be challenging at this point, but they were making connections and they were building relationships, and I told them, we're just planting the seeds. We just need to keep watering them, and we'll see, and maybe we'll see them grow into fruition, and maybe Katie will see them grow into fruition. You know, we just have to plant them and watch them grow. So after doing that for the first 3 quarters of school, then we had our Youth Truth survey data come out. And it was really powerful to me because this is student data. This is what my students are saying at my school, how they feel about it. So engagement, they rated us in the 53rd percentile, which is the highest of Santa Rosa City schools. They rate us at academic rigor at 27th, again, the highest of Santa Rosa City schools. Relationships, there with the relationships with the adults, 50th percentile, highest in Santa Rosa City schools. The culture, 56th, highest in Santa Rosa City schools. And belonging and peer collaboration, 70th, highest in Santa Rosa City schools. So that's who, they're talking to us. We asked them questions and they told us. And I'm pretty proud to say that my students feel that the Youth Truth data shows that our students feel that what we are doing is working. Our students' scores show us that they feel like they belong, that they're being challenged, and that they're part of the culture, and that makes me feel good. So our reflections. The RVMS staff really does want to make the needed changes to ensure access and equity for all students. When presented with the problem, we rallied to come up with a solution. As the site leader, I know I can count on my staff to work together to do what they believe is best for all students. Our kids are engaged, challenged, and have a sense of belonging. They feel that the curriculum is rigorous and that they have positive relationships with staff. So upon reflection, I'm proud of the work the staff has done to problem solve an issue and that they found troublesome. So next steps for us. We're currently looking at new bell schedules to find better ways to meet the needs of our students. A new bell schedule could address the needs to support students, redefining our SSRW and flex time, looking at wheels of support and enrichment. We will continue to work in our cost teams to continue to identify students who may need some supports. And in the upcoming year, I look forward to continuing work on priority number 5 and the Santa Rosa City Schools MVP collaboratively with the staff to deepen our understanding and fortify the changes we make so that they stick.
Thank you. Good job. All right, and last but definitely not least, Maria Carrillo High School and Principal Barr.
Great. Okay, I'm on. So thank you very much, Dr. Kitamura and the SRCS board trustees. I'm truly honored to be here with Mr. Coscarelli and Mr. Navarro. I feel that watching their board reports, I'm honored and blown away by the work that they do at their schools and their hard efforts. So thank you for all that you do, because we're the tail end of that whole thing. So I really appreciate it. So the picture that you're looking at is of our clock tower, and that is our graduate profile. That's kind of the thing that we do at Maria Carrillo. And as our Parent Association President, Teresa Jebsen, had said, they took it upon themselves to paint that in a very central location on our campus so that not only our students, but our staff and our community constantly look at it and remind ourselves of what it is that we stand for. The first couple of slides are the kind of typical ones about our LCAP goals for SRCS, the theory of action. And then we get into our goals. And I really tonight am here to kind of talk about how we're working to align what we're doing with kind of the vision of Santa Rosa City Schools and MVP. So we took all of last year, we had our WASC visit this year, we took all of last year doing focus groups, preparing for kind of designing some new goals of what it is that we want to see happen at our school. So we met with parents, students, teachers. We met constantly through our staff collaboratives in small groups. And we discovered really where we live currently is this idea that we want to increase students' ability to synthesize information and ideas. So really looking at the DOK or Bloom's taxonomy and raising that level of our student thinking so that they're up at that critical thinking level. And then the second one was to increase our students' understanding and expectations of our graduate profile and the relevance of college and career and life. So it all kind of goes back to that whole piece of our graduate profile. So we have a very robust site council with multiple parents, students, and teachers involved. Our ELAC is growing as well. Our Parent Association President acts as our DAC representative. So my whole slideshow is kind of our inquiry cycle. So it's just, I guess it's the way my brain works. So, so you'll kind of see how we've kind of evolved into our graduate profile. So our essential questions that we've been asking are, what should every student know, understand, and be able to do to be a globally competent citizen? What are the current and future learning needs of our students? And what does it mean to be an educated person? So it constantly drives us back to our graduate profile. So our strategic plan or our action plan we tried to keep it to a smaller number of pages, and we wanted it to be something that our teachers and our community could grab onto. So we developed a one-pager that really says what our action plan is. So the idea behind it, so our focus is cultivating compassion. So that's really what we've been focusing on for this entire year. So when we put this all together, it goes with this idea of where we start at the bottom with explore. So we want to explore this idea of how our students connect to the community and what our school climate is. And then we're going to do that through growing, so through our professional development, through our Bloom's taxonomy work, through walkthroughs that we do, and starting to think about how we use different strategies in the classroom. And that ultimately leads to the support of our students, which then leads back to those two goals. So under, oops, sorry, that's okay. So under the student, increasing student understanding, so we've been developing continuums for our graduate profile. So we have built one for our powerful producer. We're in the middle of making one for the masterful communicator. We've kind of missed the U. That was the year that we had all kinds of closures and things going on. So our instructional leadership team, we kind of got stuck, and we've said, okay, we're going to move back and we're going to go on with masterful communicator. So what these continuums do is it allows the teachers in the classroom to think about, is this student mastering each one of these characteristics? So when you look at our graduate profile, we have attributes underneath each one of those. So we have a continuum that starts to think in terms of development all the way to mastery. And how we're looking at it at our school is, what am I doing within my classroom as me? What are we doing as our department? And then us as a whole site, what are we doing? To increase our ability to synthesize information, we're really working towards cross-curricular integration and then common language, so that we have a common bones of how we're operating and how we're moving forward together. So the big three of what that looks like is we have three big ticket items that we're working on. So we're working on this real world project that Teresa had mentioned. And then we're utilizing the Center for Educational Leadership, thanks to Dr. Guzman and Dr. Kitamura, of allowing us to be a site that actually pilots this work. And then ultimately, we finally have an entire multi-tiered system of support that looks at all tiers of what we're doing, and we've created a system of approach. So smattered in my presentation are our Youth Truth data survey, our Youth Truth data. So one of the pieces that we saw was that 70% of our students are having a difficult time connecting content to real world application. Hence our real world project. So this year, we have piloted using the Project Wayfinder curriculum. It's a toolkit that helps students understand the purpose that they have in life. And so that is our launching pad into doing kind of a bigger continuum of purpose-based learning. So 9th grade, we're looking at understanding who I am, so as an active learner. So through their English and humanities classes, they'll use the Project Wayfinder toolkit. This year we had one humanities teacher, so we had about 100 students who did the toolkit. Next year, it's had such a phenomenal effect on not only our students, but our freshman teachers, that all of our humanities and English teachers are adopting that curriculum for next year. So we'll have 400 students going through the Project Wayfinder toolkit. 10th grade, what we're looking at is how do we help students articulate who they are? So freshman year, they're understanding who they are. Sophomore year is now, how do I express who I am? So in the years past, we've had kind of a small business networking event that we've been doing with the help of Brianna Marr, who's the SAY Work-Based Learning Coordinator. We want to build this out and make it entirely a large, robust experience. So the fall, next year, all of our sophomores will do a career fair where they just get to go and see and experience. Then they'll go back to their English class and they'll perfect their kind of purpose of who they are. They'll learn not only the art of speaking, but they'll learn how to tie a tie, they'll learn how to iron a shirt, they'll learn how to shake hands, they'll do the whole, no shaking today. Next year, hopefully. And we're doing this with the help of, we have an advisory committee that's been helping us put this together, and we have a life coach who's a part of this. So she's gathered a plethora of HR people and life coaches who are going to come and help us deliver this curriculum in our English classes. Then in the spring, we'll blow up this networking event, and all of our sophomores will have an opportunity to actually sit down one-on-one or 2-to-1 with an industry professional where they will actually talk about themselves and gain feedback. Our junior year, this is kind of the piece that we're currently building, is to then allow our students to go out and explore. So either we're gonna change our schedule to having an intersession or hybriding what we do in the junior year so all students can experience a community service project or an internship. And then by the 12th grade, we'd like them to gather all that information in a digital portfolio that demonstrates how they've met the graduate profile and they've mastered these attributes and the characteristics. And then that is presented in a defense to an industry professional who hopefully they've been working with in their junior year, their advocate, their parent, and another adult who they're interested in having with them. So all this work has not been possible without the help of SRCS and Dr. Kitamura. I went to her and to Dr. Guzman and I said, we're thinking about this, and they said, go. So luckily, with their support, I was able to go out and garner $12,000 this year, next year $24,000 to be able to make this project come real. So thanks to the CTE Foundation, the John Jordan Foundation, and our parent association, the three have committed, in addition to having community partners who've all stepped up and said that they want to be a part of this. So we now have a very active advisory committee that's designed a roadmap, and we're building this thing as we go. So these are some of our students who've been involved in the networking event with their ties after they've practiced tying them. So the next piece of Youth Truth data, 55% of our staff feel that they don't have access to meaningful professional development. So what we've done, thanks again to Dr. Kitamura and Dr. Guzman, is we were able to contract with the Center for Educational Leadership. So this year, our department chairs completed 6 walkthroughs together using the 5 dimensions of teaching and learning, which is that circle that you see over there on the right-hand side. We focused pretty much solely on the student engagement. So we've done 3 so far. We have 3 more to go. Next grouping, we're going to look at purpose so that we really kind of start looking at how we use this tool as a whole. And then I'm incredibly proud of our department chairs because what they've decided what they want to do is they want to do a series of walkthroughs with their departments and start looking at trends. So those things that they feel like these are the places where we need professional development, these are the things that we're close to having work, these are the things that we're rock stars and we're just killing it. With that said, the piece that we're really excited about is we will be hiring from within our staff 2 what we're calling engagement collaborators. So they'll have 2 release periods each to be able to partner up with our departments and help in terms of looking at engagement strategies. So how do we start thinking about what we're doing in the classroom? So we know that all of our teachers are content experts. Some of the places where we just need to kind of polish up what we're doing is around pedagogy and thinking about strategies. And so our hope is that with some time, some space, and then really being able to use their classrooms as a teaching lab, we're going to be able to expand the different kinds of strategies we use within the classroom. So the last piece was around our MTSS. So we've had 70% of our teachers are mentoring at least 2 students who have Ds and Fs, and we're reaching currently over 200 students. 49% of our students believe that their teachers make an effort to understand their students outside. And our demographics are changing. And that's kind of what this picture is here to demonstrate. So when Maria Carrillo started, we were 80% Caucasian. 20 years later, we're a little over 50% Caucasian. The interesting part of the other 50% is that we are made up of multitude of different ethnic backgrounds, which makes us a really kind of interesting school, because we have all kinds of different little cultural pieces that we're trying to figure out how to build together. So these 2 pictures are of our students actually learning how to tie ties. Many of them actually didn't know how to, so our social science department took it upon themselves. They brought ties in because many of our students didn't even have ties, and they actually had a lesson in tying ties. All right, so 47% of our parents indicate that they receive regular communication about their students' progress. So that's another piece that we've been working on. So we have a school app, so we are able to push out notifications. And then our teachers are working to increase their communication home, and then also in their participation in SSTs, IEPs, and 504s. So with the mentoring piece that we've done, we've introduced this thing called a 5-minute protocol. So at the beginning of our staff collaboratives, our staff get together and they meet around students that they want to talk about. So they come up with 3 strengths, they come up with 3 weaknesses, and then they develop 2 action items that they want to do together as kind of a cohort to support a student. Then they come back the following month, which was supposed to be today's collaborative. And then they either green light, yes, these action items are working, yellow light, we got to go back to the drawing board, we got to come up with 2 new action items, or they red light and they say, you know what, this isn't working at all, and we've got to put them into our MTSS referral. So we've spent probably the last 2 to 3 years developing our MTSS system. We started with a pilot of our Aspire program. It's an advocacy specially designed to help 9th and 10th graders who are struggling. That first year we served 20 students. By 2018, we fully implemented Aspire, and yearly we're serving about 40. We realized that that wasn't enough. We needed to do more. So this year with our SIPSA funding, we have provided an EL, ELA, and a math intervention coordinator, and we've developed a cost team. And this year, starting in January, is the first time we've tried an actual site-wide Tier 2 intervention, which is where we have every teacher mentoring, or staff person, because we have classified as well, mentoring 2 students. So I put this in here because we've used this as we've built our system. Ms. Enemark's not going to like me very much because I want to turn this thing on its side, and really what I want to do is create a diamond so that we've got Tier 1 in the middle, and then to the left is the intervention side, right? So Tier 2, Tier 3. On the right-hand side would be enrichment, so Tier 2, Tier 3. This is the first year that we've had an AP coordinator, and our enrollment has changed, and we are offering this year over 750 tests on our campus. So we're gonna have quite a busy May of testing going on. So the last piece, oh no, you're fine. I don't know if it will go. Oh, it did. Did it go? It didn't. So you have it. So there's a link to our MTSS roadmap, and it kind of explains the whole process of what we're trying to do. So our SSTs were a little out of control. If a student had just the smallest minor infraction or something minor going on academically, we were pushing them to SSTs, and our counselors were SSTing to death with no follow-up on the other end. So we've changed through our MTSS roadmap. So it all funnels through our MTSS coordinator, goes to Tier 2. We do what we can at the tier 2 level. If tier 2 level is not working, then that's when we go to the SST and the cost team. So through this process, I think we've gotten much more streamlined, we've become much more efficient, and we've started to connect with our students at a different level. And I think that's kind of where we're heading. So this year was all about compassion and how we create compassion on our campus, around our students and around our teachers. Next year, I think it's about connection, and then it's that piece of how do we build stronger connections. So how are we connecting teacher to teacher? How are we connecting student to teacher? And how are we connecting student to student? So that's kind of where we're heading in the future. So the last slide is just what we're proud of. So when we ask our teachers and we do the whatever these things are called. Yeah, Wordle, thank you. I'm stuck in the Google world at the moment. So these are the things that came out for us. So lastly, I think that I know I've probably overtaken my time. I'm just so incredibly proud of the work that we've done. And I know it's a little different than the previous slideshows, but we live, breathe, eat that inquiry cycle. I mean, it's constantly in our wheelhouse, and we're always asking more questions of how and why and what. And with that, today, our staff collaborative was supposed to be working more on our graduate profile and the building of our masterful communicator. But because of our cycle of inquiry, we stopped all of what we were doing, and we talked about COVID-19 and talking about how we start to build online systems so that we could do distance learning. So our site is prepared and we're ready to go, because we've spent a good chunk of our time in the last 2 days, and we'll continue in the next 2 days to make sure that we're ready to go if doors are closed.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we turn it to the board.
So before we get any further, Hidden Valley staff, anyone here, Hidden Valley, could you stand up if you're here? Amber up there, assistant principal. Rincon Valley staff here, anyone? Yes, thank you for your work. And we have Creo people here. Thank you. A lot of work, thank you.
Principal Bart, what do we need to do to take what you've done at Creo and make sure that every single high school has this kind of thinking and this kind of preparation for those connections that you described so powerfully? And one of the things that I really loved about the program that you were describing is the way that community members are engaged with students in ways that I think is rare. And so maybe that's a question for Superintendent Kitamura as well, but this is just really meaningful work.
Ms. Barr, what did we talk about? What did we say?
Well, you've said a lot to me. So.
How do we replicate this, right?
Yeah.
How do you become a demonstration?
Right. So, so Dr. Kitamura and Dr. Guzman have been incredibly gracious with me, because every year about this time they can expect to see me on their calendar, and I come in and I say, okay, here's my new idea. and then I talk about how it connects to the things that we've been doing. And they have said, okay, every time, with the caveat that this year in particular, because we're adding these 2 engagement collaborators, and that our hopes are that, that really is going to start providing some professional development, meaningful professional development for our staff, because it's organic, it's coming from them, it's real time, it's happening within the classroom, that then we will become that model school that will invite other high school principals, staff members to come and, see what we're doing. We really started this 4 years ago when I came on as the vice principal, and we had our ESLers, and the poster, I was like, this isn't going to work. If this is really what we believe, we got to make it go. And we have a phenomenal staff that just stepped up and they said, okay, And they've trusted me. And every time I come up with some zany idea, they go, okay. And they step on board and off we go. And then we develop new layers of it. And I think the thing that I think has been really beautiful for me is, you know, the first year it was a hard push, and now I sit back. My office is no longer my office. I now have couches and chairs in my office, and it's become the safe place for staff to come and discuss whatever it is that they need. So we've had departments come in and have some therapy time. We've had groups come in and just talk about work that they want to work on together, and I've really been able to kind of step back and say, okay, you guys take this and run with it.
Thank you all for your presentations. Principal Coscarnelli, I have just a question, with all the trauma that your students and families and staff have experienced and the resiliency that you've proven. I know you've put together a wellness night, possibly scheduled for April 30th,
Right.
But also including the implementing a comprehensive wellness program in the theory of action. Give us a snapshot. What would comprehensive wellness look like, and what are the needs, I guess, or what would be the obstacles that you're facing, and then what are the needs that you would need from the district?
So we've talked about this a lot as a staff and as a school site council, and really in the most basic form, we would flip the two of our LCAP and SIPSA goals, where wellness comes first and then academics. We always believe wellness must come first, otherwise you can't have the academics. We talk about resiliency a lot, although I've spoken to Dr. Kitamura before, and sure, we are resilient to a point. How many years in a row can we get hit before you can't be resilient anymore? So we really worry about this with our students and with our staff members, and that's some of the survey results I put up there for you. So for us, it truly is a comprehensive wellness program. I'd invite you to come over, and I can spend a couple hours with you probably going through it, and I can explain all the details.
Okay, I would like that, actually.
Please, anytime.
I'm going to say that overarching what I heard from each of you principals is connection, compassion, and working with staff, compassion and connection with staff and for kids. And so it's really a take care, intensive care education like I've been talking about before. And I think that speaks wonders for everybody in the trenches with kids. And thank you for your leadership. We are moving on to an action item E4, approval of resolution to decrease the number of certificate employees due to reduction or elimination of particular. Oh, sorry, Dr. Guzman. Did I give you a heart attack? So it's discussion. First reading of the revised board policy for high school grad requirements.
Can I have teaching and learning? Can you come on down, please? Thank you. Yes, in front of you, you do have the first reading to Santa Rosa City Schools high school graduation requirements, board policy 6146.1. A couple things I want to talk about. Did hand out some sample schedules. These are just samples. We are going to bring some more back at the next meeting on March 25th. Based upon the work that was done by teaching and learning, there are some examples from the high schools based upon some of the current programs that they have. We also want to bring back some more examples with some of our additional Math 3 options. Some of the things that I've heard and some of the feedback around the new graduation requirements is why the A through G alignment was taken out, as far as the letters aligned to some of the classes. As we know that our graduation requirements are more than just A through G, and that if students receive an A or B or C, they can move on to being eligible for UC-CSU. However, we do allow students to receive a D and still pass and move on to the next level here as part of our policies. So we wanted to broaden that a bit. However, on the 25th, we'll be bringing back the AR, in which we'll be addressing this, and it does talk about the alignment to A through G and also the Common Core state standards. Also in the AR, we'll have more specifics to the waiver and also more specifics to the graduation with concentration. I had an opportunity with my team last week to house a forum with anybody from CSEA or SRTA could be attend and ask questions. And so some of their comments are attached to the board item. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the counseling department chairs, and Edvijas Llamas will be meeting with the language other than English department chairs, and Director Goyle will be meeting with the math chairs to also get additional input to the board policy and also the graduation with concentration. So that is why this is a first reading. And so with that, I actually turn it back over to the board.
That was short. Board, are you ready to make comments? This discussion item, questions? Dr. Guzman, thank you for addressing in the revised, there's no mention of A to G, and you did explain it that it's going to come back to us in AR, and that this is a broader BP.
Correct.
Got it.
I have a quick question. On some of these examples in some of our like CTA designated pathway or CDE, and some of these classes, are all these courses already designed, in development? How many of these courses are like already established, and how many of these courses are being established, especially the ones that might be useful in the waiver?
So I want to be really clear that this is not around the waiver, this is around the graduation with concentration. So the waiver is for 1 year, and it is for students who can waive out of the process of the third year of mathematics and third year or second year of language other than English after they have failed those classes. This is around the idea of the certificate specialist, what it was once called, and now the graduation with concentration. So I just want to be really clear about that.
So of some of these sample classes that we have here, are all these courses already established in the curriculum, or are they new? Where are we on that?
Good evening. All these courses are currently offered in our school district. Just do want to emphasize, because we talked about this briefly last time, that the idea with this is that there's some flexibility when we develop new courses or new courses get adopted, but would fit the same format. But currently, what you see here are all courses on our master schedules.
I'm going to be looking forward to, is the next meeting, we're going to have this back or in a month?
Yes, on the 25th.
So I'm going to be looking forward to the industry concentration and the fleshing out of that, because it's not real clear, not fully fleshed out, and I know you have more work to do on it.
We do, and I will be, I think the third option under the industry concentration is something we'll be talking about with the counselors tomorrow specifically. So we'll be bringing back that.
What part do you feel is not fleshed out? In the board policy? Or
In the board policy, yeah. It's not clear to me if we're waiving, okay, just for the class of 22, I mean, if we're waiving math or LOTE, when would a student choose industry concentration, or why would a student choose
Again, two separate things, two totally separate things. So if a student is not passing math, well, you guys explain it. Go ahead. So totally separate.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here. So let's just start with the waiver first. So that, once again, just to go over some of the basic requirements, is for the class of 2022, so our current sophomores. And that does explicitly have in there, as Dr. Guzman mentioned, an ability for a student to not take a third year of math and not take, or not take a second year of language other than English. Only current sophomores. And then there's two timelines that were associated with that we went over last time. Then in the industry,
To ask a quick question about that, can you talk about the scope of to whom that waiver might apply? That kind of or, do you have answers to that right now? Thank you. Sorry. Jump in.
For the waiver in regards to math, that scope would apply to, again, our current sophomores. Going into their junior year, let's say they've taken Math 1 their freshman year, Math 1 their sophomore year, and they were not able to pass either year. So their junior year, they're taking Math 1 for a third time. That means that they would not be able to meet the current graduation requirement of 3 years of math. So that student would be eligible for this waiver. A student who may have passed Math 1, but is struggling with Math 2, again, going into their junior year or their senior year, may be eligible. That's why Tim referred to two timelines, because we want to check in at the junior year and the senior year to see where the students are along the math continuum of 30 credits. For the language other than English, Edwidges?
Good evening. So for the language other than English, last time we came, we have been looking at the current sophomore class and their failure rates with regards to language other than English. And so it's compared to math, the numbers are much smaller with students who have failed a class in language other than English. And so what we're looking at is definitely when the student is struggling, and we identify that there are other courses that need to be taken in order for them to graduate with a high school diploma. That is when we can, through the waiver, identify these students as students that would be waived out of that second year of the language other than English. So they would, in essence, pass, we want them to have had 10 semester credits of a language other than English, with the understanding that there's other courses they will need to take in order to be able to graduate.
Sorry, I know I cut you off in the middle of your presentation, so feel free to go ahead. I just wanted to make sure I understood scope. Thanks.
I had no presentation exactly, and I appreciate the input of all my colleagues in helping address any questions or concerns. Did we answer your question? Is more important to me. Okay.
Then clarification around the concentration.
So the concentration, if you look on where it says alternative credits towards graduation, it kind of goes into a more detailed explanation about that. It's really an opportunity for students in the 11th and 12th grades to really look at a different area of maybe of study along the industry lines, as you see based upon these student schedules that were given to you. These are the classes that as we showed in the last board packet, these classes are actually already at these specific high schools. And so that's why they're picked through this concentration. But as we've talked about, and as we move forward, we know we're gonna have additional opportunities to add to this. I think long-term, we like the idea of actually being able to maybe look at our students being able to travel around and to have different opportunities at our different high schools, sort of like the old ROP model. But also this is an opportunity for kids who are interested in industry and the ability to work with our business and some of our great elbow partners to be able to really build up some of these opportunities, especially with work industry, and also to be able to provide some sort of work-based learning, which is one of the things that we really need to sort of flush out, and what was some of the feedback that we got from counselors. And so I look forward to that conversation tomorrow with the department chairs to sort of get their input.
So I have another random question, which is, can you talk about kind of the substantive difference besides just the name between a specialist certificate and an industry concentration? So, just when you look at the board policy from a, just a kind of high level quick glance, I think for a lot of folks who are looking at this, it looks like we just crossed out specialist certificate and put in industry concentration. So I really want to make sure that we are able to discuss more transparently like that substantive distinction that was made beyond just the change of the name.
I want to take a micro step back just to make sure. There's oftentimes in communication times where messaging can get a little overlapped, and I think that may have occurred. So I want to make sure we're really clear, and then we're going to kind of move into that next step you're asking for. So here's the micro step back. The waiver says 2 years of math, 1 year of language other than English if you're a student class of 2022, a current sophomore. The industry concentration, to be very clear, says 3 years of math, 2 years of language other than English. And I want to make sure that's totally clear. Waiver says 2 years of math, 1 year language other than English. Only students who are going to graduate class of 2022. The industry concentration says 3 years of math, 2 years of language other than English. And before we get to your kind of question, some of the nuances in there are the way in which an industry concentration has an internal logic that suggests in counseling a student that they might make some decisions around mathematics or language other than English in its third for math, third year, or language other than English in the second year for what a student might do. I hope that helps kind of separate or kind of make more binary the terms waiver and industry concentration. But that then returns us to maybe further questions, but first an inquiry about the change from specialist certificate to industry concentration.
And I want to add that we have some first sets of math courses that will be utilized. But this is also bringing back in the work with the youth design crew and co-designing courses to meet the needs in the industry with concentration.
I think my comment, just to follow up on what both of your comments to me mean, is that we are maintaining high expectations and high academic rigor for industry concentration. And that is really meaningful. And I think that, the way I'm reading some of these changes really looks at, I think we're elevating the way that we and students and our community see what that choice to be an industry concentration student means. And so I'm grateful for that explanation, because I really do think that that gets at the core of what I understand some of the substantive changes to mean is to continue elevating that academic rigor and those expectations for kids, and also meeting them where they want to be and where they are and how they love learning and what they're excited about. So yay and more. Sorry.
You wrapped that up really well, because that was really well said. I think the specialist certificate was the initial name that came out when we developed the policy, knowing through committee work that it really wasn't a very popular name. And so that's where the industry with concentration came.
And can I add one more thing? We did meet right after that. We met with a group, we called them the Special Certificate Group, and then they turned into the MVP group. And I want to be really clear that this is when, after this is approved and we have an opportunity to really define some of these components, we will be coming back together with them and going through this with them, and also getting their input about, some of the nuances about how this can be partnership, especially with some of these industry partners. So I do want to be really clear that that is not something that we're going to leave off or not adhere to, because they have been very patient and very giving with their time, and we want to show that all of that hard work has gone into this, and it will continue, because I think there's really ripe opportunities here to partner with industry.
Just tailing off of what Director De La Cruz had to say, I just want to make sure that we're communicating all the options with the parents, with the students, that they know, because there is so much opportunity. I don't want to blow it. We need to get that right. We need to. It's also the buy-in that we need to get. So I just want to make sure that all the assurances are in place that we're doing this.
Yes, for sure. I think that's part of the timelines that we'll be presenting, but I also think there's some opportunities here for that original youth crew to also come out and help us message that, because I think there's a lot of power in students.
But messaging it at the schools as well.
Correct, no, at the schools, I'm going out to the schools and actually having those conversations with groups less than 50.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you what it feels like from this seat here in terms of the whole changing our graduation requirements and all the angst and you know, just angst and all of that goes along with it. We believe in this. We absolutely believe in this. This is what we're about. This is our equity movement. We truly believe in this. We also see that there is anxiety and suffering and some blame and feeling less than and hurry up and all kinds of things where everyone's kind of feeling badly. But the exciting part is that we have to do it yesterday, but we can't do it yesterday. We have to do it carefully. And so I just applaud all of us with grace and compassion and all hands on deck. And the three principals who presented today, we're talking about staffs who are in it, you know, in it to win it. No, it's not about winning. School's not about winning, but everybody's helping because everybody counts. And we need this industry concentration now, and we need those math classes now because we're having juniors pretty soon, and we're signing up for classes, and teachers need to know how to teach that and be trained. So I just support our teachers, our staffs, everybody on board, counselors, everybody, to just thank you for working hard, and thank you for putting heads together, and thank you for being the team that helps our district realize its vision. Thank you.
Okay, so we will be bringing this back, and there is some consultation that needs to happen with some various groups. I heard you guys talking about that at the top.
So it'll be coming back on the 25th.
Yeah.
Can I just make a request for information as we bring this back? What I would really love to hear as a board member is kind of the full pitch or the full explanation that you would make to a parent and a child who is making this decision. And so I think I really want us here to understand what that decision, how it's being framed, you know, recognizing that this is creating a path for a child and a family that's different from the one that we imagine, where all children are, you know, graduating with the ability to go to ECU or CSU. And recognizing, I think, the ways in which messaging this to parents and kids, as well as to our community as a whole, really acknowledges that this is not creating tracks, that what this is doing is creating different paths and choices that are informed, and that are very clear and are about, you know, again, meeting children where they are and families to be informed as they make this decision. So I think, you know, as I think about this, you know, it's an opt-out. It's not an opt-in, right? Which is, I think, the really important switch that this waiver program, even just for the very limited number of kids that this would apply to, I think the more we can be able to hear the ways in which we're communicating these decisions to kids, I think the more it's going to be able to be fully understood by our larger community. And, you know, I believe in this. I think it's a really important and clear way that we are recognizing some of the challenges in this transition and how important it is to clearly communicate these choices to people most impacted by our policy decisions. So I would just request as we come back that I would love to see us really engage in that conversation and show our community what to expect if a waiver is something that becomes necessary or an option or something to consider. Because I think that a lot of folks, especially with something new, you know, may not fully understand the way that that may come to them. And so I'd really love for us to start that conversation here in order to show how implementation of that policy at, you know, your important level will actually look and feel, so that we can be more supportive of that.
We did have a comment card on this. Will Lyon?
Good evening. I wanted to thank Dr. Guzman for working hard to listen to staff the last couple weeks. We had a meeting scheduled. There was a lot of information that came. I was frustrated at it because I didn't feel like I got to say the things I needed to say and ask the questions I needed to ask. And she pushed it back another couple weeks, so especially so that they could talk to counselors. And I think that's really helpful. I think a lot of the concerns that we had around both of these had to do with the increased workload to counselors without compensation, without time. And I think it's really important to hear from counselors on how, like, the nitty gritty and how it's going to work. I hope that that meeting is productive and that it comes back with changes that make it better documents to address those issues. But the counselors that I've talked to are really concerned about the logistics on some of this. So I hope that's a helpful meeting, and I appreciate the time that was made for that. The concerns that the union has with this, we'll start with the waiver. We don't think it helps enough students. We think that more than 90 students need support at this point, right? 90 students have failed Math 1 for the second time. But it doesn't help all 90 of them. It only helps those 90, the ones who got the goods to pass Math 1 the third time they take it. If they don't pass Math 1 the third time they take it, the waiver doesn't do any good, right? So we think that perhaps together, not either or, but perhaps both, you should look at authorizing algebra readiness for the sites who think that support's needed, and or a stretch algebra class, so it's 2 years, which ultimately may mean waiving out Math 1 and 2 for students who are struggling. Otherwise, the waiver will help only those students who can pass Math 1 that third year. And we question that. They failed 2 years in a row. What systems do we put into place that will ensure the third time will be successful? And that's a concern. The industry concentration part, I really feel like I don't quite understand it yet. I didn't get to ask all the questions that I wanted about it, but I do have a few concerns that there may be no more questions than concern. According to my friend Tom Gooch, most of our CTE courses are set up for 3 years to get completion from the state level. So if we were gonna, there are ways to make them 2 years, but they're currently set up for 3, which means that if we grant the waiver and a kid gets our check mark for the concentration, they may not be completing the state mark, which means it'll affect funding. So it doesn't necessarily mean we shouldn't do it, but we have concerns about changing from 3 to 2. That's a 33% loss in access to CTE, and we have concerns that it'll affect funding because they won't be completers on the state and the national level. I think I'll leave it there. I think I have more questions than answers about the concentration. I'd like to learn more about it. I'm also concerned that because we have 3-year plans that are being impacted, the kids have to start their sophomore year or their freshman year. They can't wait until they're a junior. So if they don't get, I know they're not the same, but they do touch each other. If they don't get a waiver or some other off-ramp earlier, in order to have room in their schedule to take 3 CTE classes, then they'll miss out on being completers there as well. So it's just, they push on each other. So that isn't to say that you should vote no on those. I think hopefully they come back and they get tighter on the concerns the counselors have. I think it'd be a good idea to bring it to a CTE department chair meeting too, or VAPA department chair meetings, so that they can weigh in on it because it directly affects their departments. But I think it was Director De La Cruz who said yes and more. We're going to need to do more than just this to address some of the problems that we've identified over the last year. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We are moving on to E4.
Wait, hold on, please.
Oh, Dr. Kitamura.
Yes. Director Damien, would you like to address the pathways or the CTE completers?
Sure. Yeah, because that's a good point. I just want to highlight that when we look at the different options, number one option, the first option when we talk about the industry concentration was to highlight CTE programs. As you can see, even in one of the pages in front of you has that 3-year sequential course. That's one possibility. Now, I just want to clarify something that comes up often is how do we define CTE? Like I'm not going to get into all the details, but the sequentialing comes off a lot. So if there's a CTE state plan, and a lot of it has to do with alignment with the federal government and Perkins requirements. The official definition is 300 hours. You could do that in block schedules, but what it'll look like is 2 years worth of sequential courses. Now, what complicates things is every now and then the state issues grants, and when that happens, they would like us to build more than 2 sequential courses. But what I want to point out is grants are never meant to supplant. They're always meant to enhance or complement something. So that's just part of our world that we're always trying to work this out. But what I do want to point out, even when the question was asked of why the industry is called industry now, it is to align with what CDE has as industry sectors, including post-secondary institutions. So when we're mapping it out, we have common language. When we're working on contracts like dual enrollment, we need to have that matching language when we start doing things more officially and writing it down and planning. So I hope that gives some clarity on that, because there has been concern that, okay, so 2 years, 3 years, some grants, some programs recommend 4 years. So you could start since the standards go all the way to the 7th grade. But the minimal definition for the college and career indicator that we're accountable for is equivalent of 300 hours.
Director Damian, is the incentive grant, the regular incentive grant, not all the additionals, as well as the Carl Perkins funds, are they at all at risk in terms of a 2 or 3 year program?
Some could be, yes, like the ag incentive, I believe, is a 3-year requirement that you want to see that built in. They get very technical, so we have a lot of them coming at us. And I was just in a webinar today about there's a new CTE state plan coming out, and the state's really trying to align all of them that come out to match our reporting, to match our comprehensive plan that we need to establish, and how we distribute funds to support subgroups. So a lot is changing in CTE right now and how we report than how we used to report as well.
So I think we should have that for the board, that information. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
I was just going to.
Edwin also used to do CTE, right?
Right. One comment I wanted to make just to close this is in the work that I've done with CTE, they are career technical education, and that division is really understanding of the college and career readiness and really looking at ensuring that students have all core content classes in place and can also complete a pathway. So that's where the 2 versus 3 courses come in. So Director Damian was correct with it's about at the end of the day, it's about the 300 hours.
I just did a tiny bit of math. If we're taking 40 weeks of school, every course is like 5 hours a week. That's 200 hours for a year, I think, on a regular course. FYI. Thank you very much. All right, now we're moving on to an action item, E4, decreasing the number of certificated employees, particular kinds of service. We do have one card on this, and we'll take that after their presentation.
Good evening, President Fong, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board, and those members of the public who are still with us. Tonight we are bringing forward a resolution providing for a reduction of a particular kind of service of about 25.6 FTE, and the reductions are primarily in the areas of elementary, secondary, and some electives. And while we are asking for your permission to reduce staffing levels by 25.6 FTE, please note that by the time we take attrition through non-reelects, resignations, and retirements into account, the actual number of people who will feel the impact of this PKS will be a much smaller group. And then additionally, we will, of course, keep taking attrition into account as we get more resignations and retirements and attempt to truly minimize the impacts of this resolution as much as possible. And so with that, I do turn it back to you for discussion and action.
We do have a card on this. Mr. Goldberg.
Good evening. Micah Carlin Goldberg, Steel Lane Elementary, 6th grade. I appreciate Assistant Superintendent Spector's comment that based on other people deciding to leave the district in various ways, that the folks who get a reduction in force notice are likely to be offered back a position, but the positions are still gone. So in the last 3 years, we are now reducing our certificated staff by 71 people. 45.7 of those are elementary, which is approximately 63.7% of the reduction in force notices were given to elementary school teachers, in spite of us being about 30% of the workforce. So it's double our percentage. What does that look like? It's about 5 people per site. My site, we lost 2 people 2 years ago. Based on the additional 12 RIFs across 9 sites, we're looking at between 1 and 2 more people from my site who will no longer be at our site. And that impacts class sizes, which impacts our students' instructional time. So last year, our 1st grade had class sizes of approximately 17 students, and if you take the 305 instructional minutes that we have per day and divide it by students, you get just under 18 minutes per student. This year, they've got 26 students. That drops it to 11.7 minutes per student per day, which is a reduction of about 6 minutes, which over the course of the school year is 18.6 hours fewer FaceTime minutes with each student in that class. That goes to reduced learning. 6th grade, last year I had 25 or 26 most of the year. This year I have 31. My partner has 32 students. That's 8 hours less per student over the course of the school year that they get time with me. I can tell you that 6 additional students in a class is huge. It's absolutely huge. Everything takes longer. I get less time with the students. When I need to work with my most disadvantaged students, the ones who need the most help, I get less time with them. We've got students that can't multiply, that have issues with adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. We have no math intervention support at elementary. We're expecting them to be successful in middle school and successful in 9th grade Math 1 with huge class sizes in elementary, and it's getting nothing but worse. If we're making these reductions in order to work on budget stuff, why are we not seeing more cuts from people who don't work directly with the students? Why are we not seeing perhaps some of the raises that were offered last year to bring people above the state average offered back so that they can come back down to the state average and we can keep another teacher in the classroom? Just some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Board. It's an action item, so.
Okay, so last year when we were presented with similar options, I had turned to Public Policy Institute of California, look at studies and seeing what other districts across the state are experiencing. And it all turns back to declining enrollment, and that it's a very sobering reality that we're facing statewide, actually nationally as well. So I looked at the recent study that came out in February from Public Policy Institute, declining enrollment in California schools and the fiscal challenges and opportunities in the coming decade. And I just wanted to, I extracted some from the study and pull out some highlights that I want to share, because this is what we need to prepare for. We have been preparing for this. We saw it in last year, we saw it in the previous year, we saw it in the year before that. The inevitability of declining enrollment has been an issue that we've discussed since I've been on the board. Highlights from the study indicate that demographic projections from the California Department of Finance suggest that public K through 12 schools are entering a long period of declining enrollment, and that all districts need to prepare for this. By 2027-28, statewide school enrollment is projected to fall on an average of 7% and as much as 18% in some counties. The Department of Finance had an interactive map. I actually looked at the projections for Sonoma County, and by 2028, this is a decline of 15%. We're one of the highest in the state. I believe LA County is at 17%, and I believe that Santa Cruz is at 17 or 18. 18% is the highest. And that enrollment is projected to shrink in about half of all the counties throughout the state. Declining enrollment is expected to impact the larger counties and the larger school districts. That's us. Findings that are significant is the impact. Districts with declining enrollment will face fiscal pressures. Again, this is something that we need to prepare for because the funding is tied to the number of students that we serve. This means that across the state and regionally, we should expect to experience more school district consolidations. Because the school funding in California is based on average daily attendance, falling enrollment leads to lower state funding levels. So I want to note that with what is defined as significant sustained declines will result in school districts having to make the difficult decisions necessary to stay afloat financially. We've been making these adjustments, and we'll have to continue to make these adjustments. And this is something that will, speaking directly to teachers and staff, that this is what we're trying to prepare for, because we know that we can expect the staffing impacts. Since about 80% of K through 12 spending goes to salaries and benefits, this is what we're going to have to continually have discussions with you and your members about. There is a silver lining. There's the good and the bad, at least in these projections. The lower enrollment could result in funding increases for K through 12 if we're able to work with our lobbyists, work with our representatives in Sacramento, and work with the governor to identify that declining enrollment is, these things happen in sort of ebbs and flows and phases. Trends indicate that when it happens, it tends to happen for, impact districts for a decade or more. So this is also the discussion that we need to have with the legislators. And that, this is, with this presentation tonight and what we'll be seeing throughout the rest of the year, and again next year as we start looking at our budget a little bit more carefully, that there are going to be many challenges ahead, and we need to be strategically prepared to have the difficult conversations with SCO, with our superintendents, with our schools, things to also consider and we'll probably continue to bring it up, is school consolidations and closures. That's a reality. I bring this up now because we're potentially heading into a recession. We've been talking about that recession, but now with the very real impact of a global health crisis, it seems to be pushing us more and more in that direction. I'm glad that we're having the conversation. I wanted to open up this conversation with everything else that is tied to what it means when we are making adjustments at the macro level, because I think we really need to start planning for 10 years out. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for my edification, I know high school, I don't know elementary. What is the contractual class size that we have right now for grades? I don't know. I know they're lower at the,
right. We've used LCFF to lower it. There's 28 to 1 and then there's 33 to 1 for K3. Excuse me, 24.
K3 is 24?
Yes.
And 4th through 6 is 33.
And that's in addition to about 1.2 million at high school that was used to reduce class size to support learning in the classroom.
I know it is frustrating though when we have so many kids that we want to spend time on and, All right. Board, anything else? This is an action item. So can I have a motion? I entertain a motion on this.
Move to approve the resolution to decrease the number of certificated employees due to a reduction or elimination of particular kinds of services.
A second.
Okay, so that's by Director Jill and Director Manieri.
Director McCormick?
Aye.
Director Manieri?
Aye.
Director De La Cruz?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Fong?
And just to say again, we're offering this with compassion, and it's not fun to know that you are not going to have your job when you've been working very hard to do a good job. Aye.
Director Moreno?
Aye.
All right, so that passes. Thank you. We are moving on to E5. This is an action item. It's a second interim report with qualified certification. And we're bringing back Dr. Kitamura, Deputy.
Yes, they get prepared to set up to present to you the second interim report after bringing forward the fiscal stabilization plan from the last meeting, taking into consider my recommendations, and then the modifications to those recommendations by the board. They've now been incorporated into the second interim, which will be presented.
Thank you, Dr. Kitamura, President Fong, and members of the board. Tonight we are going to discuss the second interim report for fiscal year 2019-20. As we do with every fiscal report, we go over some of the basics of school district budgets just to ensure those that aren't familiar, not necessarily the board any longer, but those watching or participating understand the process that we go through. Per Education Code Section 42130, we do have to provide interim reports on the status of our financial condition for the current year, plus the 2 out years. Also, if you are self-certified as qualified at second interim report, you have to produce a third interim report, which covers our actuals from July 1 through April 30th of the current year in preparation for the budget in June. Here's a graphical representation showing the first red circle of second interim, and then with our qualified self-certification, the third interim that will be brought back to the board in May for approval prior to budget adoption. So as we mentioned, self-certification, the district can certify 3 different ways. One is a positive certification, meaning we'll meet our financial obligations for the current year and the 2 subsequent years. A qualified certification, which means the district may not meet its financial obligations for the current fiscal year or subsequent 2 years, or a negative declaration where the district may not meet its financial obligations for this year or next. As you can see with the yellow caution sign, qualified certification is what we're presenting to the board tonight. When we came for second interim in the creation of the multi-year projections, these were the major assumptions that we used, including cost of living adjustment. As you may recall, we are in a COLA-only environment right now that LCFF has been fully funded, where notice on the LCFF gap percentage of 100%. It's notable that on the 2020-21 school year, excuse me, up until governor's revision or governor's proposed budget in January, we were projecting a 3% COLA. At governor's proposed budget, he released a 2.29% COLA. On here, what we were just talking about with Director Sheffield, or Director Sheffield was talking about enrollment, showing declining enrollment in our elementary and secondary school districts, moving into 2021, 21, 22, and the trend continues on beyond that. Our projected ADA is what we receive our apportionment or funding from. While we're in declining enrollment, we get to use prior year numbers for our elementary school district and secondary school district. So that's why projected ADA is on there, and funded ADA is actually higher than projection because we're actually using 1 year back. That's declining enrollment protection from the state of California. On here, again, an illustration of the increases to CalPERS and the effect that that's having on our budget going back to 2018-19, with current year, I believe now is settled at 19.72 and projections of 22.8, 24.9 in our 2 out years, showing those increasing costs for primarily our classified employees. Our CalSTRS increases, the 1920 school year with the 17.1% is from the reduction that Governor Newsom enacted with this budget year, and then moving forward to 18.4 and 18.1. The 2022-23 is a projection at 18.1 at this point. So you can see on the bottom the cost increases that the district has to pay on behalf of generally our certificated staff into the retirement system. As we talked about at the fiscal stabilization plan presentation, the fiscal stabilization plan provided the foundation as we move forward into the conclusion of this year, as well as budget development for next year. And also, as a reminder, we still must prepare for CSEA and negotiations this year, and SRTA employee negotiations in the spring of 2021. There's still uncertain education funding in California. There's a lot of rumors out there right now of what may or may not happen, but until we actually get something, either through the May revise or through legislation passed in preparation for the next fiscal year, that's uncertain. And then once again, and can't be stressed enough, the declining enrollment that we're currently in our elementary and secondary district, as well as our feeder districts that are coming into Santa Rosa City Schools. I've talked with 5 or 6 of them that are experiencing similar difficulties in terms of declining enrollment. You may recall from the fiscal stabilization plan presentation, Jeff Gosby, who is a Rincon Valley board member as well as a member of our budget advisory committee, talked about what their projections show for Rincon Valley as our biggest feeder district, dropping 500 to 700 students over the course of the next several years, which will impact our middle and high schools as they matriculate to us. So with that, we'll go into some of the numbers for the second interim report, and with that, I will turn it over to Executive Director Joel Dantos to go through these next couple of slides.
Okay, thank you. So here we're looking at the current year second interim report for the general fund, and it looks at revenues over expenditures and the resulting surplus or deficit. And this is updated since October 31st. So looking at the revenues, so this is our combined restricted and unrestricted report. So you've got special grants and things included with our unrestricted services. Our revenues, and we'll get into the unrestricted in the next slide. So just, I think our revenues, the single largest impact to our revenues was the current year state funding. You'll see that was after the governor's January proposal and our current year update with our student data, the reduction was a little over $900,000 in that one line item. We did update the expenses, again, including restricted and unrestricted on this slide. So you see at our prior deficit was right about 9.2 million. Updated now, it's about 9.8 million. So we were able to not feel the full impact of the 926,000, but it is something we're working on. Again, that we're looking forward to the governor's May revise coming out this May that will have updated state funding projections that we'll bring back with that third interim in May as well. So again, here's the unrestricted portion. You can see there's that. So this slide, we updated it in this presentation. We didn't see that it only went through employee benefits. So here I updated it to show the full picture with revenues. And you can see that $926,000 reduction in LCFF revenue. We did update certificated salaries, classified salaries and benefits, as well as expenses. Some of the expenses were we updated the budget for textbooks adoptions, and here you can see the resulting change in the deficit. In this case, it went from first interim projection of a little over 5 million to 5.4 million. So although we had a reduction of 926,000 in funding, after we updated the expenses, we had a resulting net impact to the deficit of about $400,000. Any questions? Okay, so moving on. So this slide illustrates the decrease in expenditures due to the anticipated budget reductions. So now we're moving on to the multi-year projections. Through the work with the Budget Advisory Committee and the approved budget fiscal stabilization plan, you can see that we've already done a lot of the work that is bringing us towards fiscal stability. But again, we still have that structural deficit in our budget. As you saw, there was still a deficit spending currently of about $5 million a year, and that is ongoing through the 3 years. So now moving on to the general fund multi-year projection, you can see this is the current multi-year projection with the fiscal stabilization plan included in it, and a number of different items included in the budget packet was what we hopefully was a detailed description of what went into the multi-year projection with the reductions itemized, hopefully very clearly, that showed with all those things taken into consideration. You can see in the third year, where at first interim we were at $12.9 million of unidentified fiscal stabilization measures. Now we are bringing the second interim with an updated unidentified future reductions necessary to meet our financial obligations of about $3.6 million. You can see with that, when that work is complete and we do identify that $3.6 million in future reductions, we'll be meeting our 3% minimum reserve while meeting our financial obligations. So we would be able to certify as positive. But like Rick mentioned, we still have some future challenges coming that will make us continue down this path, or come back and have and the third interim will continue to have our projection for this current year plus 2 future years, but then immediately in June we'll see our budget come out that'll have the 2021 year and then add that next third year on. So that's just coming down. And then so I think that.
Before Director Dantos goes on to the next slide, I'd like to point out that at first interim, our unassigned unappropriated ending balance was $15. So we're at 18 now, with still the $3.6 million in unidentified cuts. And I want to say again, the work that the Budget Advisory Committee did with providing Superintendent Kitamura recommendations where she could modify, add, or delete, and then bring those forward to the board for discussion and approval is why we're at where we're at. And as I mentioned with the first Fiscal Stabilization Plan Part 1, the work of the Budget Advisory Committee is not over. We'll be starting meetings up again after spring break to look at ways to address the $3.6 million in preparation for recommendations to be submitted to Superintendent Kitamura for inclusion in the third interim if possible, but if not, in the 2020-21 budget.
Okay, so that was the general fund. Now let's move on to the other funds that we have. So our charter funds are our 4 charter schools. This is their projected ending balance at the end of this current fiscal year. If you recall, in the fiscal stabilization plan, there was action to utilize that for the general fund, and you do see that in the multi-year. But that's just to show that, so that'll be included with the 2021 budget. But this was how we're going to close out this year. Then we have a state preschool contract to provide qualified families preschool services, and we run that through Fund 12. So it's a pass-through cost. We get the revenue, and then we hire North Bay Children's Center and other firms to provide that service, and it's pretty much a wash. Fund 13 is our child nutrition program. We're monitoring those expenditures. We're looking at hopefully having a balance at the end, but we're going to have to continue looking at those expenditures. Then Fund 14 is our deferred maintenance. That is a special fund for deferred maintenance other than our routine restricted maintenance fund that is included in the general fund. Fund 17 is a special reserve. That is based on savings, that reserve is not assigned, so it is applicable to be used as part of the general fund as well. So that's something to be mindful of. Fund 21 is our bond fund. That is where we get our bond proceeds for our facilities projects. Fund 25 is our deferred, and you can see the resulting ending the year projection ending balances in these. Fund 25 is our deferred, or is our developer fee fund. That's where we collect developer fees, and we're allowed to use those fees towards expansion for new students entering into our boundaries. Fund 35 is a county school facility fund that is secluded for state school facilities funds that are available to us. We aren't currently under any of those programs, but like, for example, we utilize that program for the Arts Charter. We took out funding through that source. So right now, there's no real action. There is a small balance, and then if we decide to go after one of those funding sources for one of our facilities projects, you'll see more action in that fund. Fund 40 is our capital outlay fund. That is where we have our current insurance work that we perform. Then we also have our Prop 39 work out of that fund, as well as our emergency repair program. And then Fund 67 is our dental fund. Again, that's similar to the Fund 9. That is showing our ending projected balance. And then for the for the 2021 budget, that will be utilized per the fiscal stabilization plan.
Joe, can you go back to Fund 17? I'm just unclear.
Yeah, so Fund 17 is a special reserve fund, and it is actually required to be ran back through the general fund when the expenditures out of that fund are decided on how we want to spend it. But right now it is a non-assigned fund. So
it's $500,000 sitting there.
Correct.
Okay.
And the Fund 17 is for non-capital projects, but for labor for projects, right? So you can't use Fund 17 to construct something, but you can use Fund 17 for the personnel to maintain something, as long as those funds are in there. With that, we're presenting the second interim report for the 2019-20 school year with a qualified certification, knowing that we still have work to do with the Budget Advisory Committee and budget development with our school sites in preparation for 2020-21. We've gone through this previously, and I mentioned it a few minutes ago that the Budget Advisory Committee will be coming back after spring break to look at additional ways to find revenue enhancements or expenditure reductions in preparation for submission to the superintendent and ultimately the board. As we look forward to next steps, tonight is the second interim. Our budget assumptions were also included in that for what we're using at this point in time, especially around COLA. We'll prepare the recommendations. In May, we'll come back with the third interim report, as well as Fiscal Stabilization Plan Part 2 in preparation for the 2021 public hearing of the budget and the budget adoption at the second meeting in June. With that, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions.
No questions?
Appreciation for everything, and you found this $3, you know, that boost.
Yeah, so let me clear that up. In SACS, you have to run this through the computer, and it's impossible to land on $0.
Take credit, Joel.
Take the credit, Joel.
Every bit helps.
But it is weird to have $18. I didn't choose that.
Credit where credit's due. A healthy district depends on our budget, right? And so thank you for your care and your careful work into the BAC for stabilization and the hard decisions that are affecting all of us that are really out of our control. You gave us a nice report on the declining enrollment, and it just makes all of us sick. And we railed about this before, but fifth largest economy in the world. Okay, I'll stop there. I'd like to entertain a motion on this. E5.
As we continue to be courteous and compassionate, I move for approval of item E5. Oh, I'm on the wrong page, E5. The second interim report with qualification certification for the 2019-20 fiscal year.
I second.
Okay, so that was Director Sheffield and Director De La Cruz.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director De La Cruz? Director Manieri?
Aye.
Director McCormick?
Aye.
And President Fong?
Aye. Thank you. That brings us to E6, which is an action item on a revised board policy naming facilities. So Director Medina brought this forward to us, and he is not here with us tonight. So even though we didn't do an adjustment to the agenda earlier, I'd like to make that adjustment now with your approval, with okay, that we bring it back when he's here. So he wanted to present it. All right, I see nods all over the place. Okay, we're just going to do that. Do we have to vote on this? On changing the adjustment to the agenda. Okay, so we're now to consent items. We are going to do F1 through all the way to the bottom, F10. Lori?
Move to approve items F1.
Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry.
We need to pull F1 to vote on the absences.
Oh, we're going to pull F1 to vote on the absences, yes. So F2 through F10. Dr. McCormick.
Move to approve F2 through F10.
Second.
Director McCormick?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Manieri?
Aye.
Director De La Cruz?
Aye.
And President Fong?
Aye. And so approval of absent board members, we have 2 tonight. Move to approve their absence, anyone? That's how I think we just,
I think it's just to move to approve the absences.
vote to approve the absences.
And then is there any additional action that we need to take about whether or not the absences are?
Lori does it.
It's illness,
Jury
family.
duty.
I don't have the exact board policy, but.
Right, so.
let me-
These two definitely
The
qualify.
absences essentially makes the determination that they are.
Excused.
Excused.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I'd like to move to approve absences.
I second.
Director De La Cruz?
Aye.
Director Manieri?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director McCormick?
Aye.
President Fong?
Aye. And we have already pulled the approval of the minutes. Is there any board member request for information? Okay. Am I forgetting anything? We're good. 9:19. We are adjourned.